All right, we are live. We are live, yo. What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Kava Club podcast. You guys all know who I am. My name is Will. I'm the host of this show. I am super excited today. I have a very special guest, very special guest, all the way from Louisiana. She's a certified John Maxwell coach. People that know me know I'm very big into personal growth. So I love Tony Robbins. I love Jim Rohn. And I also love John Maxwell as well. So the fact that I get to listen to a certified John Maxwell coach, that just excites me today. So I'm very excited for her to join me on my show. I just want to tell her directly, thank you so much. I'm very grateful, very humble for her to taking the time out her day to be on this show and share her story with everybody and get you guys a chance to listen to her story. So thank you so much for being on the show today. I just want to say to everybody that's tuning in and watching this for the very first time, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Please show some love and support. Please like and subscribe to my channel. If you don't mind, you just like and subscribe to my channel. And everybody that's been supporting my videos, send me a lot of positive feedback every single day. Thank you so much. That really inspires me. It keeps the fire going and keep me doing what I'm doing. That makes me happy. So thank you so much. I'm excited. I'm excited for my guest today. I'm excited for I know I'm going to learn a lot. I'm going to learn a lot today, but I'll give her the chance to introduce herself real quick. So it's all you. Go ahead.
All right. Before I introduce myself, Will, I want to thank you for for this privilege of coming on your show, and hosting me, allowing me the opportunity to, try to reach our young people, and realize, we can add value to them and help them better their lives, where they are today. But anyhow, with that, thank you so much again. And my name is Heta High, and I am full-blooded Tongan. Both parents are Tongan. My parents is Siane Matata Umufuke and Taufale Oholani from Kalamatua. I am 53 years old. I will be 54 this year. And I am, like I said, I am from Louisiana, but I did grow up in Tonga the first 16 years of my life, before moving here to the United States in 1984. Yep.
All right. You just said that you're from Kalamatua, your parents from Kalamatua. I'm from Kalamatua too. Shout out to Kalamatua. Shout out to Kalamatua. So put it out there. Love to all my Kalamatua fans and people that watch it from Kalamatua. Shout out to you guys. But I guess we'll get started. The very first question I want to ask you, Heta, is how did you grow up?
How did I grow up? Actually, my parents raised me to be an independent thinker. I remember very clearly, I was always a curious child, still am at my age. I've never stopped being, I consider myself a lifetime student. Learning anything and everything is always interesting to me. But anyhow, growing up in the island, pretty much I was a very strong-minded young child growing up. I was never one to fit into the crowd or never wanted to fit into the crowd. I did what I agree with. If it's aligned with what I believe in, it's good with me. If it's not, I go about my business and do whatever I want to do. But that has a lot to do with the way I was raised by my parents. Especially my father has a big impact in my life. I remember at 7 years old, we sat at the front steps of our house, and I remember he was talking to me, and he's like telling me about when you grow up, if you're going to do something, I don't know if I should say this, but he said, don't do it halfway. Always do it 100%. Give it 100%, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever you do it with your all and do it from the heart. And he told me, he said, stand up for what you believe in. It's better that you stand up for something, whatever you believe in, and never worry about what anybody else think about it. If you believe in your heart is the right thing, as long as the right thing, you go after it. I was like, I remember I looked at him and I said, Dad, I'm 7. But he said, yes, I know. But he said, but I know you understand what I'm saying, right? I also had the opportunity at a young age. My parents took me to Fiji 1974, they took me to Fiji, Australia, New Zealand. And that's when I first got exposed to other cultures and other ways of living, which I found fascinating, and I remember, so growing up over there, I always did good in school. I started off at Mangaia Elementary School until I was 3rd grade, and went over to Ako Puleanga right there on the Halatau Fa'ahau. I don't know if it's still there, across from the Assembly of God. And I was there 4th grade. And then my brother and one of my cousins decided to go to the Methodist elementary school, and they were a grade ahead of me. So I said, okay, I told my parents, I want to go with them, follow my brothers, right? Culture, we don't have cousins, we just have brothers and sisters. And so I followed them, one of them, my uncle Maheolani's son, Tutoe, and my brother Sam. So I followed them to the United Methodist School, and went to school over there. So, and then I chose to go to Atenisi. All the, how you take at 6th grade, you take an exam to the high school. I had Liahona, Kunsalote, and Tonga High School, and I didn't pick either one of those schools. I picked to go to Atenisi High School, and I left there and I came here to the United States at 16. And I remember they're like, you need to go to high school. And I said, okay. So I went to high school, and they told me, I went over there and they said, okay, you need to be in 10th grade. And so I was in 10th grade, and I told my dad, and I told the teacher, I said, I've done all these math, because they were making me do, like I said, I did trigonometry and all of that already in Tonga. And, but in the States, they don't know the difference, because they don't do the research. It's a different syllabi unless you go to Liahona, and because they were asking me, and I said, well, the schools in Tonga go by the British syllabi is what we use, unless you go to the Liahona, the Mormons church schools, which was one of my brothers went to school there. But anyhow, I'm just like, no, I'm not doing school. So I dropped out, and then worked at McDonald's. And then I decided, okay, I want to go to college, So I went to Foothill Community College, and they're like, you got to have a GED. I'm like, okay. And one of the ladies says, you want to test, take the English and the math. And I said, sure. So I tested. They're like, well, your score, you can start college now, So I took English, and I'm like, okay. So they took me without any GED, went to school over there for a couple of years. And then at the time I was living with my sister, then I moved with my sister. But I remember, when I moved here and I go into the church, that's the Tongan thing. Every Sunday we go to church, whether you want to or not, right? Pretty much, you have no choice as a child. That's what you do. You go to church on Friday night, Sunday, Wednesday night, almost every night. And I remember I was thinking, because some of my friends we were in high school, 3 of them, as soon as they graduated, they got married, right? And the following year they had, and I'm like thinking to myself, you mean to tell me that we grew up in the island and we think of America as the land of opportunity, and this is what I have to look forward to, right? Not that it is there's nothing wrong with, if that is what they wanted to do, is, find a husband, have kids, awesome, good for them, But for me, I was searching for something else. I wanted to know what are the opportunities out there, and my dad encouraged me to join the service, and I was just like kind of hee-hawed around, because to be honest, I was scared. I didn't know, it's the unknown. The unknown is always scary, But in order to change our lives, to make any impactful change, you have to take a leap. Really honestly, you have to take a leap. And so I kind of like hee-haw around, went back to school, then moved to LA with my sister. And then I went and tried to apply to the McDonald's, and they're like, because some of my family members like, forget working over there, just go be a caregiver, take care of an old person, you make money that way. And forget that. Just come do this. We can find you a job. But when they tell me, I didn't say anything, because, disrespectful to talk back, culture.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like thinking in my head, before I even do that, I will join the military, scared and all, before I even go do that, because I wanted to find out what opportunities are out there. Right. So that's one of the last push for me. I'm going to the McDonald's and they're like, they saying like, we find somebody else. If we find somebody else, more suited for the job. I'm like, more suited for what? For flipping burgers? I was like thinking, I went back, I'm like, what is this? You just need to learn to add 1 + 1 = 2. That's it, to work at McDonald's, but I remember that. And so, I followed one of my brothers. He was going to a music store and I said, I'll ride with you. And so we rode over there where the music store was. There were the recruiting office for the services. So I went into the Air Force. They told me I got to have GED. Navy, they told me I got to have a GED. Even the Marine Corps, I got to the Army and I'm like, I said, I don't have a GED, but I went to a junior college. And he's like, how can you go to a junior college and not have a GED? I said, they tested me and they told me I clapped English and math, and they let me, and he's like, okay, come back here and take this little ASVAB pre-test. So I took it and he's like, can you come back tomorrow morning and take the real test? I'm like, sure. So I came back the following morning, took the real test, scored a 96, I believe was my ASVAB score. And he's like, okay. It was really quick. Within 2 weeks, I was on my way to Fort Jackson, South Carolina for boot camp, right? That's how quick it was, right? But also tell you how ignorant I was too about not knowing anything about the military, right? Because I wanted to join, I thought I was in finance, didn't realize I signed up for logistics, supply, not finance, not the same thing.
Yeah.
Totally separate, But anyhow, I joined. That's where I met my husband. He is Palangi and here from Louisiana. My mom-in-law is one of the reasons why we moved here. We have only one child. I told you my son is 26. He just turned 26 Sunday. Actually, he just left yesterday, heading back. He came home for the last couple of weeks to visit us, but he headed back up to Norfolk, Virginia is where he's stationed. He's in the Navy, but anyhow, I so I joined the service, right? So I spent 7 years in there. After I had my son, I got out because we were dual military. We were stationed in Fort Drum, New York at the time. So the Army gave me the opportunity, and for any kid out there who think that military, you go straight in and you go into war and all of that. It is nothing like that at all. The military has jobs just like you do in the civilian world, same different, job skills, opportunities galore. If you want to take advantage of it, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it was one of the best leap I did. I have a mentor that says, jump and build your wings on the way down. Don't think too much about it. Just close your eyes and jump. If you're going to do something, applying Mel Robbins' 5-second rule, just count, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom. If you want to make a decision and do it,
you got 5 seconds.
You got 5 seconds to make the decision. Otherwise, if you hesitate,
doubt.
And last night, you doubt, right? That the fear will override your courage, whatever little courage you have. Because for me, if it weren't for God and knowing in my belief that God is with me, I would not be able to do a lot of things that I do, right?
Yeah.
So, but anyhow, so joined the service, got out after I had my son. My mom passed away. She had cancer, lung cancer, never smoked a cigarette in her life, but she had this hereditary, her younger sister passed away from stomach cancer, and she passed away from cancer. And then 4 months later, my father passed away. He had heart issues, and that's the thing, Josiah Alipati, shout out to him. He talked about, our health. And it's true, we are in our culture, when we talk about supplements or vitamins or things, they're like, what is that? Throw that away. That don't mean anything.
Yeah.
We don't believe in preventative, taking care of our health now so we can live longer. We wait until something is truly going wrong with us. When we're really sick and there's nothing else that can be done, then we want to try to take all these supplements. Too late. We got to take care of our health now. But anyhow, I after I got out of the army, I went into deep depression because we were stationed in Fort Drum, New York at the time. My son was born 1995. He's a millennial. So, and a shout out to all the millennials. I know there's a lot of discrimination against them. I think it's a lot of misunderstanding, older people, because really, sometimes they, I think people in my generation or older need to just take a pause and listen to some of the ideas of the millennials, because it's very fascinating to listen to some of them, always learn something. Never say, that's a rule of thumb that I have. I never consider anybody too young or too old to learn from. I firmly believe I'm aligned with John Maxwell in that way. I firmly believe that everyone that I meet, I can learn something from. There's something about them, or I can learn from them,
Yeah.
Never set yourself too high. That's something I never set myself too high above anybody, because for me, I firmly believe I can learn from the youngest. You can learn from anybody in your peers, and you can learn from the elders, right? So that's just my outlook in life. But anyhow, fast forward, I went back to college in 1997 because I was in depression. Like I said, after I lost both parents, I was in deep depression. My husband called his parents, and God bless them, they drove up to New York. It's from Louisiana, came. And I remember my father-in-law sat me down and said, if there's one thing you would like to do, what is it? And I've always that firmly believe that I am an intelligent person. I'm smart. I firmly believe that within myself. Nobody else does, but I did. I see that value in myself. So when he sat me down and asked me if money is not an issue, what would I do? I said, go back to college. The very next morning, he told me, get dressed, dress my son up, and my mom-in-law said, let's go for a ride. He drove me straight to the college. Community college in town. Next thing I knew, I was enrolled. I had my books. I was ready for school. Start school and college. I started in New York, but what's ironic, my mom would always, because my parents are both buried in Hawaii, Mililani Cemetery, but my mom would always tell me to come back to Hawaii. And she said, you are so smart. You can go to school, University of Hawaii. You can get, and I'm like, no, I don't want to go to college there. I don't. It ended up, that is my alma mater. I ended up starting school in Jefferson Community College in Watertown, New York. Then went to Midlands Technical College in South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina. So I got like 2 associate's degree from there. And then we ended up in Hawaii. And I ended up going to University of Hawaii, and that's where I got my bachelor's, my BBA, my bachelor's degree in accounting from University of Hawaii. But, I just remember, kind of it's ironic how God has revolved or lead me in my life. I am a person that firmly believe that everything is connected, that we are all connected one way or another. I firmly believe that everything that happens in my life, good, bad, or indifferent, There is a reason for that, especially when I'm going through struggles, um, things that don't go right in my life at the time, and I try, and that's when, I remember, I said, I know God is with me, just it's like, Father, how strong is my faith? I always ask that question. How strong is your faith, Heta? Because it is, it's easy to talk about it, but when you're going through struggles in life, what do you do? What really do you do? And that's the time, I come down to it's like the struggle with my son when he hooked up with the wrong people. He still goes through some things in his life, and I struggle with that. I don't know what's going on, but I'm like, what? God told me, I said, if I'm going to pray and ask God that I leave him in your hands and deliver him to victory, who am I to question when that's going to happen?
Yeah.
I have to leave it to him. The thing is, for me now, it's like when my son is home, is to treat him like with respect as an adult. Stop trying to control him. Stop trying to, he tells me he go to certain friends and this and them. I don't want him to go, but what do? He's 26 years old. The kid is 25, 26, right? He has to make the choices. As a parent, I can tell him, just encourage him and guide him, and give him, say, hey, because I tell him, I said, when you're going through things and you're struggling and don't know what to do, sometimes it's so, I said, sometimes you can talk to God. When you feel like that you cannot talk to me or your dad or anybody else, talk to God. Sometimes just like you talk to me, he hears. Sometimes we don't know, we don't feel like that our prayers are answered, or a conversation, because we're like in this instant gratification. We pray and we expect it to happen like tomorrow, right?
Yep.
It's not gonna happen like that, It is gonna happen in God's timing. It's gonna happen in God's timing. And for those of us who are very impatient, we're just gonna have to deal with that, right? We're gonna have to take the pill and deal with that. And so that is, that's how my life is. I'm actually, so we lived in Fort Drum, New York. We, when I met my husband, we got sent to Germany. We were there for 3 years. Went to Fort Drum, New York, then to Hawaii for his, then we were in South Carolina for 2 years, and then Hawaii for the last 7 years. That's where he retired from. And then we moved here to Louisiana. My father-in-law, I graduated from University of Hawaii December 2003. My father-in-law was drafted in the Navy when in the 60s early, right?
Yeah.
And he was stationed in Honolulu, Hawaii. And he always told me, he said, when he graduated, I will come, because he wanted to see. He never got to do it, right? He had a stroke when he was in 2002, and he died. He died, and he never got to come to Hawaii. And so, but we moved here because I figured my mom-in-law is the only grandparent my son has. So it's important, like in our culture where we value our grandparents, that relationship, family, is unit we value in our Tongan culture, polyculture, right? And so I felt that it was important that he come over here to have a relationship with his, grandmother and his family here. So that's the reason why I end up here in Louisiana. But I actually, tell you the truth, every year I come to California and deal with your traffic over there. I am grateful. I am living in Western Louisiana.
That's true.
Our traffic is red light. Pace here is really slow, but I love it here. I am where I'm supposed to be. So anyway, we moved here to Louisiana. I worked at graphic packaging for 18 months as an accounting coordinator clerk. Then I left there and went to CenturyLink as accountant, whatever, 1, 2, whatever that was. And then 18 months there, then I came back as a financial analyst to Graphic Packaging International, which are the two biggest companies in this area. Graphic Packaging International and well, it's Lumen now. It's no longer CenturyLink, it's Lumen. But anyway, I'm with Graphic, and I'm an accounting supervisor over there in the shared services group. But Friday next week, February 26th, is my last day there. I am leaving that position. You know, I'm leaving my corporate career. 8 years I've been with them, and the people have been fantastic. You know, I can't say enough about my former director who has invested so much in me, Holly Beasy. She has invested so much in me as far as personal growth. Not only that, but professional growth. You know, I've learned so much, experienced so much from that, able to make like a positive contribution to the company, you know, while I am there. But I'm ready to move on. Like, I'm taking another leap. You know, when you get paid a decent salary, and you're like, you know, it's like am I doing the right thing, or am I just off my rock over here? But I firmly trust that, you know, God is calling me to do something different. Yeah. This was not where I'm meant to be, so I choose to put my faith in him, you know, and walk away from my corporate career in pursuing my personal growth, teaching, and my adding value to people's lives and making impact in people's lives. So that's where I am today.
Oh, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing your life story.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. I'm excited for you to come back to take that leap of faith. I know we discussed it before the podcast. I took my leap of faith last year in the pandemic to devote myself to what I'm doing right now. I think I remember I watched Denzel Washington, you know, the actor. He said something in the speech I always remember to this day about taking that leap of faith, because he was talking to like college students. He said that, you know, he said the dream, any dream or passion or desire you have within yourself, in your heart, like that's meant to do good, you know, good intentions for yourself and for other people. He said that that dream and the desire is not yours. That was sent by God.
I firmly believe that.
Yeah, and I believe that
too.
I believe that because God is our creator. He knows our abilities, and he knows the purpose that he created us for. And he said that that dream was sent by God. And he was like, and if you know that God sent you that dream, that's all the confidence you know to pursue it, because God doesn't fail. So
right.
So yeah, so that I always carry that quote in my mind. So whenever I'm about to have a dream or have an idea, you know, I want to do something, I always, instead of doubting myself, I would say, no, this is not my idea. This is God gave me this ability, this mind and this idea. So I'm confident this. I'm gonna carry it out because it's from Him. So that's how I'm able to mentally push myself forward, keep moving forward, and not let my doubts take over. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, thank you. And they always say that to listen to that small voice, right?
Yeah.
Because they said when you listen to that small voice speaking to you, that is God talking to you.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
You need to pay attention to that. And this is something that have been tugging at my heart for a long time. Like I said, I'm from a family of 7. You know, I have 5 brothers and 1 sister, and the 4th brother passed away in 2016. And then the 3rd of my brothers passed away at the end of last year, in December, you know. And when I came back from there, from his funeral, I had a discussion with my husband, but this is, you know, I had a discussion with my husband, and it's like, you know, my husband was talking about it, and, you know, we have talked about it, and I told him, you know, just prepare, save up, whatever, because at the end of, you know, 2020, I'm done with work. You know, I'm absolutely done with work. But, you know, and he kept talking about it, and he was but he said, you know, when he came back from the funeral, I really thought about it, and I had a change of heart, you know, and I know without a doubt in my mind, I know that's God reaching down and changing his heart and changing his mind, about me leaving my career. Um, and it's because, because he was saying, I thought about it, life is too short. Your first brother passed away at 55. This brother passed away, he just turned 60. And he said, I think about it. I am going to turn 59. He'll be 59 this year. And I'm turning 54 this year. We are pretty much, we try to eat healthy as much as we can.
Yeah.
And we do exercise. We turn our garage into a gym, a garage gym. So we try to exercise at least 5 days a week. And we do take supplements, take care of our health. But, going back to our people, and I've watched your podcast and listened to some of the stories of the young millennials, the young Gen Zs, the next gen, and it's just kind of like listening to their stories. And some of them, our people, I see these young men and women, they are so talented, they're so intelligent, but they need somebody, I think, to come and tell them, look, you can do it. Apply the law of the mirror. You must see value in yourself to add value to yourself. If you don't believe that you can do it yourself, nobody else will. If you don't see the value that you bring to the table, or see, your potential, your talents that God blessed you with, nobody else is going to see you. And if you don't go out there and chase your dreams, nobody else is, sitting on the couch watching TV and like, yeah, I'd like to be like that. I'd like to be that person. I want to do that. I can do that. Yeah. Okay. Come back in next year and I want to see what has changed.
Yeah.
Unless we change something, like Alipate was saying, unless you actually take action and be intentional about your life, you got to have vision and, for your own life. You got to have goals for your own life if you want a better life than where you are. Our parents did the best they can to raise us, but they're at a different level. They're different culture. Some of their traditions you don't see eye to eye, especially kids, that are grew up here or born and raised here, they may not see eye to eye with the parents, and this is something I noticed with my generation or older. They want to hold their kids close to them. Somebody wants to say, okay, I want to move off, and no, you just stay here at home. I hear this going through, families and relatives, or forget school. I have one of my nieces, she's working and going to college. She's a jugo right now. And she told me, she said, you know what, Auntie, I go to school with this young lady and she's super smart, but her parents told her to forget school because it's a waste of time. They told her to go be a caregiver. And
Yeah.
she asked the question, she said, how do we change the mindset in that? I said, you can't. You can't change the mindset of the older generation, but you can change with your generation. I said, you can change it starting with you and then your kids and generations after that. You can break the culture that way. I said, but as far as your parents, thankfully, this is my sister, one of my sister's kids. My sister and her husband, Gus, they have 13 kids and wouldn't. Yes. And I bet to let me have one of them, something like that, but they wouldn't let go, not even the last one, right? But, they had like, I think 5 kids or 6 kids, and then they had a break, and then they decided to have 6 more or whatever, and wouldn't give up one of them. And all the kids are, they're all grown. I think the youngest is about to finish high school. And some of them are doing great. Some of them are still staying around there. But it's kind of like the same thing I'm trying to help them. Personal growth, which I am a personal growth. I love personal growth. I'm a personal growth junkie, right? I read anything and everything. My mentors comes from books, from podcasts, from people I talk to, from people I follow. But for me, what does that mean? When I talk to what I've realized is like when I talk to my nieces and nephews, they're like, what is that? What is personal growth? They don't, some of them, they're like, what do you mean by that?
So let's dive into that, because I feel like that's something I'm really passionate about, is growth. People know me. But that's something I remember I had a conversation with you before the podcast. Like I told you before, I see Polynesians all the time, and it saddens me when I see all these intellectual, gifted, talented Polynesians, but they're not able to pursue their goals because either the parents say I guess you just mentioned a lot of reasons, right? They have to listen to the parents. So I guess want to open this discussion, and we can just have a healthy discussion on this topic, because I know there's a lot of kids that watch this podcast and they have big goals, they have big dreams, they have things that they're passionate about in their life, but their parents or family disagree with what they want to do. And I know being a Tongan, one of the hardest struggles in my generation, our generation of millennials, is voicing our opinion to our parents in a respectful way, to express our thoughts in a respectful way. But of course, within our culture, talking back to your parents is considered like, tai whapapa o talahu. Right. Yes. Or, it means that if you talk to an elder, it's ultimately seen as is a form of disrespect if you speak your mind. And especially it really depends on how traditional your parents are. And I do know have some parents that are really open, because they've been living in America, they got used to the American culture. But I do know have some friends that their parents is like, no, there is no talking back. And if you talk back, a lot of times, this part, you have the Tongan tough love, talk back. Bye. Bye.
What?
Right. So and that's the reality. That's the reality of a lot of kids. Like, and so I want to and I've come to this point in my own personal growth journey, that I do believe that there is, like we talked about respect. Whapapa. That's what whapapa is respect. And I believe that respect, the way we teach it within our culture, is not the right way to teach it. And because respect goes both ways. You don't need to, if you want somebody to give you respect, you have to earn that respect. And that also comes with your kids. Just because you're a parent doesn't necessarily give you the authority to treat them however you want to treat them. So, and I know a lot of parents don't see it that way, because in a Tongan mindset, that's my kid.
Mentality.
And I don't want to say this in a disrespectful way, but I feel like some Tongan parents feel like that's my kid. It's like more ownership. That's my property. I can do whatever I want to do. I can do whatever I want to do. Just say how I want to say with you. I own you, so you better just listen to what I say. And I know that's not the parents' intentions, because I do understand parents, that's how they were taught in their generation from their parents. So they're just applying that same knowledge and the same upbringing with their kids. But I want to ask you, because you're elder in the elder generation, and because I know that's the feedback I get from a lot of parents. Why are you trying to? For a lot of people that disagree with my podcast, they always say, why are you trying to break the Tongan culture? Why are you trying to disrespect the Tongan culture? Why are you trying to change the culture? You're a Tongan. You call yourself a Tongan because, and you talk about, and you're trying to. And these are all the things I hear, and I'm like, look, I love my culture. I love the whapapa. I believe in that. Whapapa, that's one of the beautiful things you do. We should respect our parents. But like you said, you have to respect yourself first. All right. And also, like, respect goes ways. And I feel like the way I was raised, I was raised by my grandma and my parents too, but they were really, they raised me respect with fear. To respect me, you have to be afraid of me. But I feel like that's not sustainable, and that's not healthy. I feel like true respect is understanding and compassion and healthy communication with each other. I don't need to like put fear into somebody to respect you. I can just be a great individual and respect them the same way I want to be respected. And we can still build a great respect for one another, instead of like just force that we see with a lot of parents. So I know there's a lot of kids that struggle with that right now. They're listening, they're trying to figure out solutions. So can you talk about that, about the culture of whakapapa, of respecting our parents? And there's a lot of older parents that's watching this right now, and they probably disagree. But I'm glad that you are on the show, because you're probably in the same age and generation with them. and you could give them the perspective of what we see as this generation when it comes to respect. That I feel like it is okay. I feel like it is absolutely okay to express yourself to your parents in a healthy way, in a respectful way. I'm not just going to go to my parents and just, shout at them. No, I'm going to talk to my parents and speak from my heart. But I'm gonna speak in a nice, healthy tone, respectful tone. But I will voice my disagreement. And
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
And so to any parent out there that's either my age or older, if you see your kids, all I'm going to be real right here. If you see your kids are not doing the things that you want them to do, the first thing is to look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself the question, why is that? What am I doing? Because that's what leadership is about.
Yeah.
Whether you're a family is made up of a unit, and just by default, the parents are the leaders, right?
Yeah.
You set the example for your kids. And this is go to the very thing that Alipate was talking about, Josiah Alipate was talking about, and even Luna Paleta was talking about, shouting out, giving your kids voices. And we feel as parents, okay, I am the one putting the food on the table, but we forget that our children are a gift from God.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't have the right to own that child because God gave them to you to raise them in his image. And us parents, we forget that. I think the mentality of some of our culture that is so oppressing our children is because we look at them as helpers. We don't look at our children as individuals, and we are supposed to provide for them, keep them safe, provide for them, and raise them up to become better than we are. Any parent, any healthy parent out there that want their child to be better than they are will encourage feedback from their children. It doesn't mean they have to be you need to have that open communication. You need to let your kids have a voice. Just because, and I firmly believe sometimes that our parents, because of shame, we don't want, because you hear it all the time. I remember going to Tongan churches, don't do that, slapping their kids, don't do that, Fakama, siomai kakai, You worry about what, as a parent, what other people think of you rather than building that healthy relationship with your child. I talked to one of my nieces right now, a couple of my nieces, that raising young children, and I give them the emphasis. If you see your kids' talent, you can see the talent in them. As I told you earlier, as we talked earlier, I'm big time into behavioral assessments and all of that. I've done the DISC, Clifton Strengths, and all of that. You name it, I've done it. But for me, seeing the strengths, the talents in your kids, you need to encourage those. You need to encourage those. They may not be, instead of looking at your children as they are your helpers, look at them as God's gift to you to raise in his image, to, make them become, like for my son. But the thing us parents, my husband and I, what we want us from our son is to become a productive citizen, is to do well, take care of yourself, don't owe anybody any money, become a productive citizen in this country. That's what we expect from our son. Nothing else. If he's doing good and not being debt up to his eyeballs and, all of that, and he can afford his, to pay for his rent, for his insurance, for all the take care, put food on his table, we're good with that. But us parents, I think in our culture, right, what I've noticed is when our kids want to go to school or want to go to college, they're like, forget that. You need to help with the rent. Go find a job, go work and help me pay the rent for this. I think it's okay, if you say, okay, if your child want to work on their own, allow them to work. If they want to help you support, fine. If not, just think of it. It's a change of mindset. Don't expect, it's the expectation we put on our children. It's one of the biggest problems. Instead of respecting their opinions and listen, really listen. Communication, listening is like one of the best ways to communicate is listen to our kids and really hear what they're saying, trying to say. You may, as parents, you may or may not agree with them. It's like my son left yesterday. We did not want him, we wanted him to leave Sunday because the weather was bad. He ended up in the ditch last night in the middle of the snowstorm here in the South. But now he's on his way, he's good. But it's like, sometimes you have to let your kids fall because that's how they learn, through experience, how they get themselves out of things, and just, and just love your kids unconditionally and say, look, I'm here for you. If you need us, we are here, and us parents, I think we don't do that enough. We just don't, and we wonder why, going to what Alibata said, we wonder why, like, we go to church as parents, especially if we are preachers, and our kids don't even, they're like against the church, out there partying, out there doing drugs, and they're like doing everything to oppose us. And we wonder why. And that's the reason why. Because the kids, what you're telling them from the pulpit is different from the way of life you're leading. John Maxwell always says, my mentor, he says, make sure that your actions and your words and your values are always in harmony with each other, right? If they are not, and you wonder why the church does not grow, it's because of that, right? Go back to the law of the buy-in. People buy into you before they buy into the vision, right? I tell my nieces and nephews, tell your story like it is. If people believe you, if they see how passionate you are about whatever it is you're trying to sell or whatever it is your story is, they will follow you. You'll have no problem, But if you're standing over there telling something, trying to sell a product that you do not even really believe in, people will know that.
Yeah.
They're not going to follow you. Forget it.
Especially the kids. Especially the kids.
Yes, because that's why Jesus said, let the kids come to me. They're pure in heart, right?
Yeah.
So kids knows, especially young adults, that, and us parents, my generation or older, as parents, we don't give our children enough credit to know their own minds, to know what they want. It's a failure within us, and that's why I say, like with the kids that struggle, they're like, look, because I see all of our kids in our, and was it Mason or Watson or whatever? One of the kids, I listened to one of the podcasts, he said, we're expected to just play football, play sports and do this, It is all great, I think it's great that you have the talent to do that, but don't just, sometimes the parents are all into that instead of giving the children the opportunity to explore other things, maybe use it as a vehicle to get an education, to better your lives, instead of just saying, oh, the kid is not even finished college and we're already saying he's in the pros, or even finished high school and we're already saying, how we talk, we talk it up, right? Rather than waiting for the results to come through. So, but yes, I think that's the respect, us parents, we need to remember, respect goes both ways. You can't force it upon people. It has to be earned, and the way we walk our lives as parents, the way we talk, the way we do things, our kids are watching us constantly. You can't keep telling your kids, hey, don't do that. Hey, don't do that. But here you are doing the very thing you're telling your kids not to do, know? So, and you wonder why the kids grow up and they're like, I'm not even listening to that. Gone, So it's sad, but it is true in our culture. It's happening. and it's just happening among us, and it is sad because I think it's a self-limiting belief that we put on our children. So
yeah, that's why I always felt that when there's no communication, and we teach kids just to listen blindly, for the sake of the because of respect, then what in my opinion, what you're doing is you're teaching kids to tolerate things, just accept things as they are. Because if you tell your kid, listen, and I know I had a great podcast with Eli Matangi. I don't know if you remember Eli. He talked about that, yeah, because if you wonder why kids are afraid to ask for things, because part of like growth, like you have to believe you deserve it. You have to believe that you deserve this greater life that you have for you, and you have to manifest by asking for it. So that's why I see a lot of Polynesians, like they're afraid to ask for for increase of the salary, increase for promotion, because they've been just taught, hey, whatever I say goes. And I feel like if you've never had a chance to speak your voice, then you never have the ability to fight for your worth and your value, because you've been told to just to serve, like just to obediently serve.
Be grateful for what you have.
Yeah, exactly. Obediently serve and be grateful, and just accept things as they are. And the thing is, no, like I feel like no, in order to get a better life, like in order to grow, you have to change change. You don't have to accept things. You can change things.
You
right?
can change it.
You can change it anytime, just by changing your decisions. And that's why I feel like a lot of Polynesians, we're stuck in poverty, we're stuck with our health issues, because we're just accepting things, because that's how we were like conditioned as a kid. I do want to ask you, because this is because that's why I believe in healthy communication, and I also believe that allowing kids to ask questions, right? Ask questions about certain things. So one of the big, and I guess this is one of the biggest feedback I get from a lot of people, especially the elder generation, is like, just one thing I see within the community, that any Polynesian that ever questions something within the culture, or doesn't matter what it is, you're immediately seen. You get attacked, you get criticized and attacked, because I see that. This is my personal opinion. As much as I love the culture, our Tongan and Polynesian culture, I do understand that it's not perfect. I do understand it's not perfect. And
any culture.
Yeah. And because, I mean, if you want to break it down, in like culture it's man-made, something that was made by people.
Right.
So if you of all those people listening, it's like, yeah, like I tell people, culture is like this. And I do it for me, because when they listen to my podcast and they always talk about certain topics, and especially when it comes to the culture, it's always a very touchy subject for people. Like, wait, why are you talking about our culture? Why are you even asking questions about our culture? Because for some reason, they have this belief that our culture is perfect just the way it is. And I feel like that's the downfall of a lot of our Polynesians. So I'm interested to hear your perspective on that, for all those people that think that the culture is perfect, the culture cannot be changed. And if you ask questions about it, because there was a girl on my podcast that she was asking questions she was questioning the culture, and then she got a lot of she was attacked. Backlash. Got a lot of backlash from the community, talking how terrible of a person she was, and it was just sad to see. And all she did was question. And I feel like for me, that's healthy to question things, because and the thing is that that's if you're teaching kids not to question things, and that leads to a lot of problems. And while a lot of kids are afraid to talk about certain things that they struggle with in their home, because the reality is, not every Polynesian parent or Polynesian parent is a good parent. That's the truth. I know a lot of alcoholics. I know a lot of alcoholic parents. I know a lot of infidel parents that are not loyal to their spouses, domestic abuse, and I see all these things, but they pretend to they pretend like everything's
on
good.
On the surface. Yeah.
But can you talk about that? Like, all those people are saying, we shouldn't. The culture is perfect. We shouldn't change the culture, and we shouldn't be questioning the culture. But I want to hear your perspective on that.
First of all, I'd like to shout out to the young lady that questioned whatever that question she asked about the culture. I think that is phenomenal. It is great. great courage over there. Shout out to you. Um, you know, but that's the problem with our culture. We are not expected to speak up when we see something that's doing over centuries and centuries and it's not working for us, right? And we're expected, like you said, to continue on that path, but sometimes we need to break the chain of the culture. We live in a different country. We're not in Tonga. We're in a different country. As far as being Tongan, we will be Tongan because that's the blood that runs through our veins till the day we die. Nobody can take the Tongan out of us. But the culture is something you can break and you can change. And it starts with you, the younger generation, right? Starts with you and what you pass on to your children, right? Give your children, as like Luna was saying, give your children a voice. Listen to them. You'll be amazed at what your children can do, at their talents. One of the things that, like I said, go back, we worry so much about what other people think, except the people that matter the most to us right there next to us. We don't even worry about how we treat those that are closest to us. We worry about what everybody else is thinking about us, right? I think it's great. To me, if you continue, it's the definition of insanity.
Yep.
If you keep doing something over and over and over and over again, and it's not working, it's like somebody being on welfare, and
Yeah.
it's like if you keep having, generations on welfare without teaching them to find a job that, hey, there you can go out and do this. You can go get a college degree. You can go and get a job. You can go if that's what you want to do. You can break the chain. Here's a story in the book of the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. I love Janetta McSwain, I believe is the name of the young lady. She grew up in the projects in Birmingham, and her older sister and their cousins. The mom was a drug addict. No one in the family, no male in the family has ever graduated high school. They either end up on drugs or in jail. The kids got pushed around, and the grandmother raised with them. Unfortunately, there were uncles living with them. So the kids got emotionally, sexually, and whatever physically abused by the uncles, right? But this kid, she grew up to be 30. When she's 30, she had 2 legitimate kids, boys, right? When she turned 30, that goes to the law of the mirror. She said, I look in the mirror and here I am, 30 years old. I've got no husband, no job, no money, nothing to show for. And that's when she realized she's got to do something. She said, if I want the lives for my children to be different, I have to do something drastic. That's when she enrolled herself in GED class, right? The first time she tested, she missed it by 1 point. She turned around, enrolled herself again in the class. She tested again, she passed. She was asked to give the commencement speech. She told her family, nobody showed up, right? And so she made the decision. She realized, if I want my 2 boys to have a different life, I have to move, right? So she announced to the family, I'm going to move to Georgia, to Atlanta, Georgia. And they all laughed at her. They didn't think she's gonna last. She just kept going about her life preparing, and she finally moved. The day she left, they told her she's gonna be back, right? It's the same thing with our culture. I think that's why one of the things that is the Tongan culture. When we see somebody succeed, or whatever success, however you define it, or go out on their own and do things for themselves, get a great job, a great career, doing well, us Tongans, what I've noticed is that we started making jokes in the back, laughing. I noticed this because when I come around, I hear it when I travel for work. I hear them making jokes, but I'm thinking, you're making jokes about that person, but that person is having, is quality of life is much higher than yours, while you're down here being a janitor. Nothing is wrong with that, but sometimes we need to change our perspective and like, if they can do that, why can I not do that? And it coming to our culture, it's not that we disrespect our culture. We love the Polynesian culture, our friendly people, right? And we have love within. We are a passionate people, for sure, but I think sometimes it's misdirected, you know? And so we do not, we need to realize, look, if the Palangi people can do it, we have the same opportunity as them. We can also do it too. It's a shift in the mindset, in our mindset. We need to change the mindset because we're not living in Tonga. We live here in a different country where you got to pay your tax, you got to pay your mortgage, you got to pay for your car, you got bills to pay, you got to put food on the table, all of these things. But like I said, it's sad that some people don't see, realize the difference, and like you can be better, better for their children, for those, like my sister is a caregiver, but her and her husband, neither one finished high school, but the two of them have come to the realization that they have to change in order for their kids to give them opportunity to change their mindset about that. They cannot, because it's amazing to me to hear my sister change. She's like, if that's what they want to do, let them go, and then do. It's very nice to hear that. It's like an eye opening. I'm like, wow, sis, that's awesome that you change your perspective. But it's like we come to this country, if we want to be just like the others, we have to break the chain of like, okay, this is all we're gonna do over here, and you're not going to talk back because that is disrespectful. Just because they have an opinion different than yours, it means it's disrespectful, right? So that culture, I think, needs to be broken. And you guys, the millennials, 40s, 30s, 20s, it starts with all of you, right? We did this in my department. We used to have issues with employees. And so I was blessed to have a director that had a vision for the team, wanted a different culture. And in order to build that, what she did was had all of us take our Clifton Strengths test assessment, assessment behavior. And so it kind of like, some people don't agree with that, like Brendan Bouchard, like if you're not good at something, which I agree with, if you're not good in an area, try to develop that, get that, but Clifton Strength says, if you're doing whatever you're doing good, you need to continue doing the things you're really good at, because those are your God-given gifts. Those are your talents. The things that we do, we don't even think twice about doing it, because we do it and we do it better than anybody else. Okay, those are God-given gifts. And so what we did was do all of that, had to learn about how looking through the lenses from other people's lenses, looking through, each other's strengths through other people's lenses. It changed the way we communicate. It changed the way we connect with each other. It changed the way we work with each other. It got people more engaged and produce more for the company. We become a better team for the company. We added value to the company rather than, becoming a cost to the company. And I think that's the thing with our folks here. I'm surprised to hear that we still have people here that, here in the States, that we see that and don't look outside of that. But, it just reminded me, if you haven't seen it, look at what's her name that reads, Brene Brown. If you listen to her TED Talk, Houston TED Talk, she talked about vulnerability and shame,
Okay.
The man in the arena, and that's the thing I encourage you. I encourage all the young people who want to change their life. Don't worry, don't read, the negative comments, don't even focus. Just, if they're not encouraging you, just kick those to the side. Don't even pay attention to those. Just focus on the positive ones and go from there. Because you definitely, like I said, I told you earlier, you become the combined average of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
If you're around negative people, you'll be negative. So if you're around positive people, you'll be positive. Make sure that you find the right people to hang around with and right friends to surround yourself with. So
yeah, and I love what you said, like, and I absolutely believe in that. You have to make sure you surround yourself with the right people, and I feel like in order to surround yourself with the right people, you have to make your own informed opinion to make sure you are right around people. But that's why I believe that's why it's good to allow kids to talk, to express themselves, because you're allowing them to make their own informed opinions, to challenge things, which is a healthy thing, because part of growth is challenging things. Part of growth is even though everybody's going that way, I know, but I have my own opinion of going this way, because as Polynesians, you guys know, we go with the flow.
Yeah, that's boring, right?
Yeah. I think that's a quote that says even dead fish, they go with the flow. the flow with the current. They follow the current. Dead fish flow with the current. So yeah. So like, and that's the thing, like, and I see this a lot. I remember growing up when I was younger. I remember I had all these ideas within me, but I was always afraid to speak up and go against what all my friends were doing. All of my friends wanted to go do this in the weekend, but I was like, I did it. I mean, I went along with it, but I just knew it. I was just so afraid to have my own opinion and make different decisions for myself, because that's just always I was that's how I grew up in Tonga with my parents and my grandma. Just listen. And then I realized as I go older, now I gotta make my own decisions. I gotta make my own, have my own opinion. Even if all my friends think this way, it's okay for me to think differently. And if they don't accept my opinion of how I see things, then maybe I need new friends, and that's okay too. That's okay too.
And that's what happens when you go on the personal growth journey. And I forewarn my nieces of that, right? And my sis, Heta High from Australia, I forewarn them, as you start to go on your personal growth journey, you will lose friends, you will find new friends, right?
Yeah.
Because as you'll come to realize, you don't want to be around negative people. You want to be around like-minded people that are growth-minded growth-minded people. You want to be around those type of people that encourages you and supports you, to keep moving forward in your journey. And so that will happen when you have, personal growth journey. That's what you would, but going back to, like you said, our culture, we shush our kids all the time, and when they speak up, we spank them, and that creates fear within the kids, right? They're small children. It creates fear within them. So it creates a culture of being afraid to speak up for what you believe in, for what you truly God put in your heart for you to do, right? So kids don't want to feel like, and it gets to the point sometimes for some kids that they are so afraid of speaking up that they, even when they become adults, they just think it's okay for people to walk all over them and to, just bully them around. It is not okay to bully anybody, to take any bullying from anybody. That is not okay. You stand up for what you believe in, and if you have to fight for it, there are so many people out there that think like you. Know that you are not alone. There are people that believe the same as you. But it is like I said, our culture will try to shame anybody that speaks up, that talks differently, that looks differently from us, from our Tongan culture, and they will laugh at you. But like I said, the only person that's important is the man in the arena, that's showing up, that have dust on his face, that's fighting every day, day in and day out, to make a living for himself and his family. That is the person. If you don't value the person that's looking back in the mirror at you, nobody else will value you. So just my advice for the generations out there.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Maloma. Hey, I do want to. I'm interested. I do want to, because we just talked about culture and mindset shifting, and I want to ask you your own personal experience with personal growth. You grew up in Tonga. In the Tongan culture, came here, and I love your story, by the way. Like you went through a lot of obstacles, and man, like, it's crazy. Like, I have friends, like, they quit in the first obstacle. I'm like, but you went through, you have a GED, you figured it out. They told you that you have this, you always kept going. And that's, I feel like that's so respectful. And that's a great example for everybody that's listening. And since we talked about culture, can you talk about things that you grew up in the Tongan culture? Because I feel like a lot of kids need to hear this, that you disagreed with. And then, and also the type of way of thinking, because I feel like part of growth is unlearning the things that you learned as a kid. You have to learn to unlearn things.
It is.
In order to move forward. So I want to ask you, what are things that you grew up in the Tongan culture, whether it's a tradition, whether it's a belief, whether it's a role that was placed because you're a Tongan woman, what are things that you had to unlearn with the culture, because you realize with yourself, this is holding me back as not only as a woman, but as a Tongan woman. And can you talk about that? Because because I feel like that's an important topic for all these kids out there. I always tell them, look, it is okay to disagree with the culture. It is okay to disagree with the tradition, in order to progress for yourself, for your own level of happiness and peace. But that's so hard because, the moment you disagree with the tradition and the culture, that you get, ostracized by your whole family and condemned by your whole family and the whole culture. But I'm really interested to hear your own personal experiences, the things that you saw within the Tongan culture that felt like you had to unlearn and let go, and that you no longer carry out no more. So I'm just interested to hear the things in before and then your shift after.
Yeah. So one of the things, especially as a woman in a Tongan culture growing up, right? You're expected to be you're expected. I remember like growing up and playing sports in Tonga. I've always loved playing basketball, netball, in the island. And so, I see my cousins, none of them really do that. And so I did it. My dad allowed me to do that. My mom allowed me to do that. And one of the things too in Tonga, like the way we wear our clothes, right? We don't, like in Tonga, there's no such thing as swimsuits, and some things are ingrained in me. I don't even in me, even though I'm married and I live away from the Tongan culture, there are no Tongans in Louisiana. I'm it, right? But anyway, I never felt comfortable wearing swimming trunks anyway. Even when we lived in Hawaii, I always wear shorts and stuff. But even culture, if a girl like tries to dress like for the prom, some of those things, they dressing for the prom for crying out loud, they're like, no, don't do this. And it's like we put these clothes on them and make them feel insecure and feel inside. And all we're doing is creating insecurity in the kids, right? One of the things as I learned growing up was like stepping out of that was like, for one, like I said, when I first moved here, they told me the only thing you can do is go be a caregiver.
Yeah.
I refused to conform to that. I said, no, I did not say no, but I said, hell no, I'm not doing that, because and being around the Palangi people, sometimes, like, I didn't think I was smart enough. That I'm like, where did that come from? I'm just as smart as them or smarter than them. Some of them I am not smarter than them, but it's like, if they can do it, I can do it. Whatever they can do, I can do, but it's like, because our culture kind of like make the girls, you're always the home caretaker. You're always, the caregiver. You're always, it's like we raise our young daughters to be limited in everything that they do. we don't give them the chance to flourish, to think for themselves, to have a voice, like, Luna says, or have an opinion. Whether we agree or not agree with it, let them have their opinions. I got to the point where I remember I used to coming to California, and I know it even to this day, because I come over there. My sister, if you see my sister and me, we are like night and day. People don't even know we're sisters, okay? Because half of the time, everybody knows my sister Leah, okay? Everybody in Kolomatua and Kolofo knows her. She was, she's a psychic out now. She's probably like slept you silly, but she's so sweet now. But growing up, she was something else. But we are total opposite. And most of the time I come over there, I hear the people whisper, like when my auntie passed away, my cousin asked me, Dudaleva asked me to speak, for the to speak at her funeral. And I speak, and people sometimes, I don't know what they think of me, but they think I don't speak. But when I speak, I'm fluent in Tongan, I'm very fluent in Tongan. You don't move to a country, away from a country that you grew up in your first 16 years and you lose your language. What kind of thing is that? You better not lose your language or your culture. But one of the things, leaving home, the decision to leave home and move away has built my confidence, like going to college on my own and finishing that, and working in the corporate world has built my confidence. But more importantly for me, knowing that the only opinion that matters is God's opinion of me, knowing that I am a woman of faith. I firmly believe that God is with me no matter what, good, bad. And when I'm not doing well, I don't care. Like I said, I don't care about the opinions of others. If you have positive opinions, I take those and I listen to those. If you have negative opinions, I just delete those and move on. I don't even worry about those. You can have, to me, I am the person in the arena. I am the person that show up every single day and I am living for myself. I remember somebody, when I sold my Mercedes, and I sold my Mercedes, took the money, went and bought like a Forerunner, and I paid cash for it because I just didn't want to, car notes. I don't have debts, okay, except my mortgage. And I just and someone said, that's kind of a step down to you, and for you. And I'm thinking, maybe to you, but not to me. Because to me, I am preparing my departure from the corporate world. I want to make sure that my husband retired from the Army anyway. But for me, material things to me is not important. I am at a point in my life where material things does not matter to me. Yes, I bought my house, we bought our house brand new and all of that, but for me, what is important at this point in my life is adding value to young people, right? For my generation, if there are some that think alike like me and want to be with me, I love it. I love to hear from you, but I know most of the people that are my age or older, their thinking is very different. They steep in the traditional kind of type of thinking of way of life, But for me, the way I see that way of life, we're not moving forward as people. We're stuck. If you're not moving forward as people and you're stuck wherever you are, you need to look yourself in the mirror and say, what have I been doing for the past 50 something years of my life? Maybe I need to change, or even if you're 30 something or 20 something, or, how do you see yourself in the future? How do you want to feel when you achieve that goal? What do you want to feel like? What does it look like? What does it smell like? What is the image that you see in your head? And then go after it. Dreaming and doing are totally two different things. We have to be intentional about our lives. We only got one, but if we do it right, once is enough, right? So that's what I say. You know, like I said, for me, it was always a jump. You know, as I, couple of years ago, I got asked to speak at the bank card conference for Bank of America, a few years back. And so I did that. You know, it's things that you experience in your life that help you, that build confidence in you. And this year, we did a virtual talk. And so I was asked to talk again on that. But it's not about, it's how you interact with people. If you see value in yourself and you think of yourself as intelligent, as confident, and you have high self-esteem, people will see the same thing that you see in you. If you don't see yourself as a beautiful, confident, young Tongan woman, and be proud of that brown skin. I love that. So, love who you are. The hair, love it. That's something I had to teach one of my nieces. I'm like, because she didn't think she would fit in the industry she was in because of her hair like mine, her brown skin. I said, forget that. I said, unless you love who God created you to be, and agree with what God gave you, the DNA that God gave you, nobody else is going to look at you the same way. Unless we value our own selves and say, I have God's DNA, I'm a child of God, and I am smart, I'm intelligent, I can do all things in Christ, nobody else is going to look at us the same way. They'll see you as a scared, unconfident, incompetent, person. So that's what I say, for us, you can't worry about those little things, those little talks, those little negative voices and stuff. You need to just shut them out and just say, your opinions don't count. For those of you who support me and give me positive feedback, your opinions count. I'm a person that focus on positive energy because I firmly believe where your energy flows, where your focus goes, your energy flows, and in order for you to sustain that positive energy, it starts with you. It's true what John Maxwell says. Growth is an inside job. You gotta start with you inside. If you don't build up the person inside, nobody else is gonna see you the same way.
I think one thing I heard a long time ago, but I forgot who it was. But when it came to opinion, something I practice now, because I'm a practical person. I'll listen to everybody's opinion, but I forgot who said it. But it said the most important opinion is always your opinion. So whenever I hear other people's opinion, I'm practical. So I'll listen and give everybody time of the day. But I always take other people's opinion, but I'll always compare it with my own. And I'll ask myself, okay, is there truth in this? Because it's always good to hear feedback. Because sometimes we get our insecurities will like block out the reality. The truth, right? The truth.
It's
the hard
those
truth.
Voices we listen to, right? You gotta be careful about those negative talks.
Sometimes we don't want to accept negative criticism, but sometimes that criticism is genuine, and it's good to listen and to have an open mind. But I always listen to everybody's opinion. But I always compare it to mine, and then I was like, is it value? Is there truth in this? Is this something? This person's opinion, does it add value to my life? Can it help my life? And if it is true, then I'll look. I'll listen to that person's opinion. But I always compare it to mine. But I know sometimes people don't get misconstrued that your opinion matters and you don't listen to nobody. Because I always believe the journey and we take in life, it does require people. You can't do it yourself. You can't just go lonely. You do require the efforts and the team. You gotta have a team behind you and a great group of people. So that's something I always like to listen. I listen to everybody's opinion, but I always know in my back of my head, my opinion is what matters the most because it's my life at the end of the day. It's not their life; it's my life.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, because we talk about personal growth. I do realize in any personal growth journey, you just talked about, valuing your own opinion. and making sure you do what's best for you, which I really, really believe. But I do want to talk about within the Tongan culture, where in the Polynesian culture, where we're expected to fulfill a lot of the family obligations. We're expected to give, to give, especially for kids. Like you talked about before early in the podcast. As kids, the parents see us as helpers. We have to help them, whatever they need for us, we have to give. And it's really, really hard. It just, by own experience, it's really, really hard to focus on yourself if you're giving all of yourself to somebody else and don't have anything left for you. You can't give from an empty cup. So one of the hardest challenges of a lot of Polynesians, not only myself, but my friends, is saying no to your family when it comes to obligations, especially financial obligations.
Yes.
You tell them, no, I'm sorry, I can't help you no more. Yes. I need to reallocate those finances to my own dreams. I need to invest into myself. And that's and I remember growing up and I remember I used to, if you're Polynesian, you know this, you get paid. That paycheck goes straight to your parents. You don't even see you don't even see that paycheck. I remember on payday, everybody's happy on payday. I'm not happy there. And my friends or coworkers like, aren't you happy we get paid today? I was like, no, I didn't get paid. My parents got paid. But that's just how it is. It's funny. I laugh about those memories. But I remember growing up for a majority of my life, just whatever my parents needed, or my family needed, I'll give. But then it got to a point of time in my life when I realized I'm struggling. And there's a lot of things I wanted to do for my life. I can't do it because I'm constantly financing whatever my family, giving, right? And of course, and that was when at a point of time in my life, I hit rock bottom. I fell into a dark hole. I was depressed. My life was falling apart. And I realized that I had to start doing things for myself now. And I had to start taking care of myself now. And that's when my whole personal growth journey started. And I realized what makes me happy is my dreams. And the reason why I'm not happy, and I realized within myself, I wasn't happy because I was living a life my parents and my family expected me to live, to fulfill my responsibility as a Tongan man. But I wasn't really living my life of what made me happy. And then I had to come to a conclusion, look, I have to say no now. I can't, this rock bottom right here is not, I can't live here. It's not a healthy place. I'm suffering. So I need to start doing things for myself. And I remember when I really did, I told myself, I'm going to start all the money, the finance I have, I got to start investing to myself first before whatever my family expects of me. And I remember when I started doing that, and it started when I started saying, no, I'm sorry, family hit me up, hey, you need this. I was like, sorry, I can't help you right now. And I remember that the first thing they will always say, oh man, you die off.
Yes, and that hurts, right?
And that hurts. Oh my god. I mean, I'm pretty tough mentally, but that was one of that was one of the things that hurt me the most, because I was like, man, what have I been doing this my whole life? I've been giving the best I can to you guys, and then the very moment I did something for myself, and the very people I thought that was gonna support me because I've been helping them my whole life, but they called me selfish and that offer. I don't care about none of them. I was like, it just hurt me because of all the things I've done for my family, and then all I wanted for them is to support me to do something for myself now.
Right.
But yeah, so of course, and I realized it is what it is. I'm gonna do me, and my life took a whole nother level. And now I'm happy. I'm glad I made that decision, but I feel like it's absolutely necessary. But I know that's one of the hardest things to navigate as a child, is to say no to your parents, especially with the when you're giving finances or whatever, your time, your effort, your energy, whatever. I want to ask you, can you talk about that? But also, I'm interested to hear in your own life. Was there a point of time where you had to say no to your family because you had to do something for yourself? And I'm interested to hear that part, because a lot of people, I feel like that'd be cool to hear, especially a lot of the kids that's watching this.
It's a matter of really, for me, it's when I had to say no to my parents, right? Because I was the same way, in my, because what we are doing really when we keep giving is that we are enabling a culture that's unhealthy. We're enabling that need, right? that should not be there. And like I said, starting with your generations, I hope that when you raise your children, that you don't raise them that way, and expect them to like give back to you. I've raised you, because what I've heard in our culture is like, I've raised you, now it's your turn to help with the bills and all of that. And that is so far from the truth. The perspective of the Tongan culture to me is absolutely warped in that perspective. Like I said, God gave you the gifts. The facts of life that we cannot change are our parents, our circumstances, how we were raised. But if you're 18 years old in this country, you're considered an adult. You can make your own decisions. You can move out of your house, and sometimes we don't know how to do all of that, and so, but for me, when I tell my parents, no, it came to the point where, especially when I was in college and my husband was the only one working, supporting me, we didn't, thank God, when I finished college, I had no college debt. We cash flow my college. But, my parents, things happen, and I had to ask myself, who is benefiting from this finance? If I'm giving what is $50, $100 or whatever, thousands of dollars, who is benefiting this finance that I'm giving to? And really, are they going to turn around and ask me again next month? And the month after that? What about the month after that? The more we do it, the more they expect, oh, you just go over there to Will and get it from Will. He just got paid, and the first time we say no, they're like, thankfully for me, when I tell my parents no, they're like, it's okay, we understand, daughter. Because I just explained to them, look, Mom, Dad, you're asking me to give you money. My husband is the only one working. We're barely making it. I have a young child. We have a young child to feed. We got rents, and we got to pay for my college, and they're like, they understand, thankfully we're understanding people. But I have a niece that's in the same situation, and I know it hurts her soul when she cannot give financially, right? Like her parents or his siblings will do things. The things that kill us Tongans, I see it. It's when we have birthdays and weddings and things like that. We go
over the
all
top.
Out. All out, right? Food. Who are we feeding? And then we have food for days that go to waste. Instead of thinking, okay, enough, just enough. You need to make sure it's enough. And whoever is hungry, I tell them to go McDonald's and eat there, go buy a burger, because who cares? But the thing behind that is like with my own families, nieces and nephews and, brothers and sisters, is that it's because they worry about people coming in, like for my, I understand, like for my, like one of my brother-in-laws, he loves to feed people. And I said, I understand that. The food is good, and I don't disagree. But when you're making food and if it's not all eaten, to me, that's a waste. That's excessive, And sometimes when we do things in our Tongan culture, we're so busy cooking that we come do whatever the actual celebration is about. We're so tired, we don't even enjoy it, But it's like those kind of things, we don't do it smartly. There's still rent to pay. The things that kill me is like, okay, you just spend money doing all these big wedding and you're calling me for gas money today. What did we not think about that, when we, be strategic when we're spending our money, and I want to direct everybody to like take Dave Ramsey's class.
Yeah.
Go to the financial institute class and take those classes, keeping yourself out of debt and managing. But I think a lot of it, behind all of it, is that we worry about what other people think. Really, the bottom line, that's it, is who is looking at us. We want everybody to see, what we have. And I see it all the time, right? Here's all the koloa and all of that, and I'm like, what a waste. What a waste. We do all of those. I understand all of that. But then we go home and the very family that had the occasion are left, okay, now they got to figure out how to pay the rent the next month, or if they have anything left to pay for gas or put food on the table or whatever, utilities. We live in a different country and we don't do it smartly. Tongan people, to me, earn tons of money. They make way more money than I do in my corporate career. I know this, but we're not good money managers. We don't manage our money really well. And that's why we're always seem like we're always in poverty and we could never rise up above that. It's because of those kind of things. We're still bringing to tradition that breaks us from the island. We come here to search for opportunity, but we still continue the same traditions that break us in this country. We don't change, if we don't change our perspective and realize what is important. Number one, take care of your family. Number two, make sure you have food for them. Make sure you have a roof over your head. The necessities in this island, right? But we go do things, go all out, like you say, and then, leave our families it's tuition. Can't make the tuition, can't make this for the kids, and when kids want to do say uniforms for baseball or basketball or whatever, we don't have the money to give to do those kind of things for our kids because we have wasted it doing other things. That's what I see in our culture. That when we want to invest in ourselves, like you said, it's seen as selfish.
Yeah.
It really does. And maybe part of that is because they don't understand, like I said, personal growth is I don't hear even within my own family, I talk about personal growth for a long time.
Yeah.
It took that long, for a couple of my nieces to because one of them started going to these conferences, and she's like, all these people that are so successful, that are up there, I want to be like them, but all of them are all into these personal growth stuff. And she said, I remember because she came to Dallas, to the Gaylord in Dallas, and I went up there to meet her. And she said, yeah, and I remember you talking about that. So she reached out to me, to do one-on-one coaching with her. And so I did that with her, and it's like my other niece that's just become aware of it. And she gave up her corporate career, I think last year or the year before, just to pursue her dreams, answer to her calling, as she says, right? It takes a lot. I swear, some people don't listen to it. And if some people may accept it and some don't, it's okay. But if you just take the time and just, I love the book Difference Maker. Talent, if you read the 21 indisputable qualities of a leader. I believe that's what John Maxwell always says when people ask him what book they should start with, if they're into leadership. He tells them the 21 indispensable qualities of a leader, to read that book first, because it's about building your character. It's about building these different things that you have from the inside out. You need to work on you first, build yourself up, because sometimes they may not see your dream right now, but when you make it and you are able to give more, what are you willing, law of the drain of, what are you willing to give up to go up? What are you willing to sacrifice in order to, achieve your dreams? So that's my take on personal growth. I'm a lifetime student of personal growth. I will always learn until the day I die. My life is ahead of me, and I'm excited about the future. And so, you know.
Yeah, I know. I know. I know that's one of the hardest things. And thank you for sharing that, by the way.
You're welcome.
I know that's one of the hardest things that I see from my friends is, because number one, we're already growing up in poverty anyway, and then, and like you said, the kids are seen as helpers, and I have a lot of good friends. It was so sad. I have one very good friend that he was offered a scholarship to go to a really big D1 scholarship to go to a big school to play football, and he had to deny that. He had to reject it because his parents needed him to work to feed the family, and they relied on him. And it was so sad to me to see him give up, because that one decision can change his whole life, and as far as opportunities of where his life can take. And for me, it's so sad to see him, as loving as we are, but it's so sad to see that parents sometimes kind of use like guilt to make us feel guilty for doing something for ourselves, especially if it's a really good opportunity. And I remembered something that I don't know if you know. Have you ever heard of a coach William Duibai? I don't know if you heard of him. He's a keynote speaker, one of the people I listen to. But I remember he shared something to me. It was like, you know what? Because he went through the same phase with this journey in self growth, that he had to say no to his family, because he's like I think he's the oldest out of 11. so they expect him to carry all the responsibility. But he told his family, look, let me. He told me personally, he was like, you know what? The problem with Tongans is we give out of our poverty, and we don't give out of our prosperity.
No, he's right.
And he told me his story. He's like, I told my parents and my family, look, let me go and let me pursue my dreams and goals and be successful. And then once I make it and I'm prospering, then I can come back and give back and take all you guys with me. But there's no point of me giving you all my resources, and then I don't go anywhere. And we're all stuck. We're all still in poverty the same way. We're still in the same position we were last year. So once he said that to me, that really allowed me to change my perspective and not feeling guilty, because at the end of the day, like I still hurts when families say that that offer. And I'm still even though I'm pretty confident myself, but family is still part of me and part of who I am and part of the people I love. But then I kind of changed my perspective now to tell myself, you know what, it's good. They can call me that offer. I know all I want. At the end of the day, I do want to take my family out the struggle. I don't want my family to, that's one of my main inspirations within myself, is to make sure I don't want to see my parents and my family go to the struggle anymore. So I've kind of told myself, you know what, let me go. I'll take the criticism, but let me go and work on my dream, be successful. And then once I'm successful, I'll go back and give back to my family and take them out the struggle. Because for me, and this is something I see a lot, this is the way I say it, what's the point of giving to your parents, but you still remain in the same situation? You're still poor over year and year and year, and I just started thinking, like, what's the point of me? I'm giving all this money. Honestly, and I look back, I gave them all this money, but our financial situation never improved. We were still in debt. We still had all these credit card bills. Nothing was changing. So I didn't see any value of keep giving to them. So, and I understood that, that's just poverty is a mindset as well. And people, them escape poverty because they keep making the same poor decisions when it comes to finances, like we do in Tongan culture. We have those big whakames and all these, lipa angas in the churches, and we keep all this money, but they don't realize, there's nothing left for the family.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree with that, because you cannot give what you don't have. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And in order for you to do, you always need to trade up. In order for you to get more and bigger in the future, you have to give up what you have now in order to get that, right?
Yeah.
So let me change my headphones. Headphones died over here. And so, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So that is one of the reasons I told you earlier when we spoke that I'm willing, for me, I firmly believe that God has a bigger vision for me, that God has bigger plan for me, and I have my future. There's bigger things for me to do. And my purpose, I told you my purpose in life is to add value, to our people. And so for me, giving up a salary, a $75,000 job a year, is a sacrifice I'm willing to do. Other people look at me and say that it's selfish, that, we don't think. Thank God I have my family that are around me, that understands, that support me 100%. But as far as other people who are all very materialistic, they're like, she's nuts. She's crazy. Who would give up a job, that's like pay $75,000 a year? It's like you are totally out of your rockers, but for me, it really doesn't matter. It is not their life. It is my life. I only get to do it one time. Like I said, you only get to live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. Like I said, and I firmly agree with him. If you when you take that leap, and I firmly believe you can make it, I can make it, and you're able to give back more, then they will open eyes to see, they're like, what did they do? What they did is step out of their comfort zone and do something very different. John Maxwell always says, do something you had never done before. Challenge the status quo. Just because you grew up in that environment doesn't mean you have to stay there. If you have to leave it, join the military for 4 years, get your Montgomery GI Bill, come back, go to college, do that. If that's, it's a small sacrifice, that you can do. There are ways, there are things you can do, to change the trajectory of your life. I read the book by T.D. Jakes. It's called Soar. He talks about, going after your dream. And he says, talking about when you hesitate for that 1 second, it's kind of like the 5-second rule. Sometimes you break the rhythm when you hesitate, because that God is giving you, showing you all the signs of the things that you need to do. If there's a thought, idea, or something in your heart that you feel strongly about, that in your heart that's what you meant to do, go after it. Go after it. Your family may not understand now, but when you make it, to that next level, they will see why you're under that. So keep your why in front of you and focus on that.
Because the problem with the Tongan, well, I mean, I guess society in general, but the problem with Tonga is like, is the instant gratification. They want things now. So if you go for a dream and you don't see the results, they're like, hey, my mouth dying. That's a waste of time, because they don't realize dreams is a marathon. It's a long-term process.
It's a journey.
It happen. It's not winning the lotto. It doesn't happen that way. And I know a lot of Tongans. I see it all the time when somebody starts on something new, and then like there's not a lot of results in the beginning, and then there's all the criticism. They give up, but they hear all from their family. See, where's the results? Where's the money? Nothing coming in, and then they discourage them, and they end up giving up. And that's something that I want to say to everybody that's listening. Your dream is it's a long-term journey. It is a process. That's why it's very important to invest into yourself and use your resources to push your head. But it's really, really hard. It's like trying to take a long journey in the Sahara desert, and you gave half of your water supply. but you want to cross the Sahara desert, but you gave half of your water supply to your family, knowing full well you're about to take a long journey in the hot desert. But you can't give half of that water supply. You have to keep that water supply for yourself so you can get to your destination. And but that's something I hear. And I also realized a cycle. I don't know if anybody, I saw this within myself of why we keep staying broke. And this is just my personal observation, is like you said, the kids, the helpers expected to help the family. So what happens, and this is what I see with a lot of my friends, they always constantly giving their financial resources to their family, and so they're broke. So they're broke.
Yeah.
And what happens is, because they're broke, and then of course they start a family. So they start a family broke. So they have kids with their wife. So they start a family broke. So now they're just that cycle of helping of relying on the kids is just reinforced, because now they're broke. Now they have kids. So now they have to rely on their kids because they're broke as well. And it just keeps happening.
Right.
And that's why I feel like that, somebody has to be that one to break that generation, that cycle.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this and you feel like you have that thing within you, I highly suggest you, I strongly encourage you to do it, not only for yourself, but you don't realize the big impact you have for everybody that's come after you. Because like I mentioned before to you, poverty is a mindset. And the biggest reason why I want to do things for myself is, of course, it's for me. The things I want to do for my life. But I also know that I have a lot of young cousins and nieces. They hit me out all the time, and they're slowly starting doing things for themselves because they see me doing it.
Right.
So
they do. It's just
I'm breaking the mindset. I'm breaking the mindset. Yeah. And sometimes parents will hit me up and it's like, hey, why'd you give bad advice to my niece or to their kids? And I was like, no, I didn't. They asked, they reached out to me. They asked me my own opinion. I gave them my opinion, what I felt like, what they shared with me. And now I see that a lot of my younger nieces and nephews, they're starting to live their own lives and be and starting to work on their dreams just because they see me doing it. Even though I haven't got to where I haven't got to where I need to be, but I've changed their mindset and their way of thinking because they see me do it, and I'm breaking the chain. So that's why I feel like if you have a dream out there, not only is good for yourself, but you're also making an impact in your own family for everybody, the generations come after you. Because you already know, once somebody does it, then
everybody else is going, right. It's just like me, right? Because I am a first generation college graduate in my family, right? So none of my brothers or my sisters, either graduated from high school or college. I am. And so I have nieces and nephews that also went to college and got their degree. I have one nephew, that got his master's degree. But here's the thing though, it's like you are a trailblazer. I am a trailblazer. I am the first one in my family, first generation to join the service, military. I have nieces and nephews that are in the military as well. Even my son is in the military. Whatever you do, and kids look up to you and they see your life. You may not be rich financially, okay, or material things, but you'll be amazed at how much the younger kids see your life. And when they see all everybody wants for their life is a joyful life. Bring the joy to your life, because when they see that, they want that. There's nobody in their right mind. I remember watching a TEDx talk, and the woman talked about she had a 5,000 square feet house, 5 closets full of clothes, all these things that she never uses, right? Went to a trip to Africa because her son was a missionary out over there, and see how happy the people were with what they had, right? You can be a minimalist, and you don't need a whole lot of stuff, because like I said, success is different to different people. Everybody's, whatever their definition of success is different. Some people, it's the cars, the house, the job, the whatever. Some people, it's knowing, it's that inner joy. Like for me, success is seeing that I'm knowing that I have made a positive difference in my nieces and nephews' lives, in other people's lives, adding value to them, and they go and they change their lives for the better. If it's better tomorrow than they are today, then I have done my job, right? That's what success is for me, not material things. So be a trailblazer and continue that. You will see it. Like you said, you're not quite there yet, but you've seen the family change already. You've seen your nieces and nephews and your cousins like starting to take charge of their lives. And that's how we change the culture. That's how we break the chain from the old traditional. Like I said, the Tongan will never leave us. We will always be Tongan no matter what. But we can change the culture to a better, more open-minded, kids who go after their dreams, dream big. Because if your dreams are not big enough, read that, whatever it is, Lion Chasers manifesto, read that. Because if your dreams are not, if they don't scare you, it's not big enough.
It's not big enough. Yep.
Yeah. So, for me, I think somebody in every family have to break the chain for everybody else to make an impact. If it's going to take like 10 people to make the change, think about that. How many others you can impact after that? One person can impact like 10 people, and 10 people can impact, generations to come. Just think about that. The exponential effect. Let's do that. So anyway.
I know. I always tell my young nieces and my nephews, because they talk to me privately, and I tell them, hey, if you want, because they're afraid, right? They're afraid. So I understand it. I get it, because I was in their position before, and I always tell them, hey, you know what? Just use me as the excuse. Blame me if you do something. If family asks or parents ask, I'll take the blame. It's good. Anyway, they already see me that way, but I'm used to it. So I always tell them, hey, use me. So if something happens, or do you want to do something in your life, and they ask why you did it, just tell me it was my fault, because I'll take it. It's good. But then that way, it allows you to get off the hook, and you can do what you want to do. So I'm willing to take that burden for all my younger siblings, and nieces and nephews, because I know what they're going through, and I don't want them to go. And you said it best. Like ultimately, we want the people coming after us, to don't go through the same struggles as you did. And I feel like a lot of people have never come to that enlightenment, because they're so blinded by all these things and cultural values. But the ultimate goal for me is I don't want anybody in my family to go what I went through. I want that to stop with me. All these insecurities and these things I went through in my life, I feel like I don't want that ever to happen to anybody. And I'm willing to take the responsibility and burden and stop that with me. So that way everybody else that comes after me can live a better life. And that's when I say that directly to everybody that out there has a dream. Yeah, go do it. I highly strongly go do it. You can do it. I believe in you. You can achieve it. But just think about the impact, not only for you, but also for your own family and the kids and the generation that's going to come.
Yeah, absolutely.
After you. So I do want to ask you. I think something that's really, really important for a lot of kids, because this is something I always hear a lot from people, is and I've had discussions with this on my podcast. The reason, our relationship in dealing with failure. And I want to ask you, because part of growth and part of life, we're going to fail. We're going to make mistakes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're going to get embarrassed. It's going to be miserable. So that's just part of the process. Failure is part of success. We have to make mistakes. That's where the growth comes from, and that's where we learn. But I know, and I'm going to ask you, I know, and I've had this discussion with a lot of Tongan, a lot of Polynesians. They're just like, their relationship with failure is always a negative. And anybody, and this already, being a coach, is anybody that goes with personal growth, changes their definition of failure, their perspective towards failure. It's no longer negative, it's positive. Yeah. We don't see failure no more as a way to give up. We don't see failure as a negative. We see it as a positive, because we already understand that it's already part of the process that we have to go through in order to grow to our best version of ourselves. But I do realize that growing up, that as some Polynesians, all they talk about is expectation, be perfect, do this, and of course you talked about act this way so all get mocked if I'm the people that's watching. So we're so concerned about the image, right? We're so concerned about the image that we're just drilling into this kid's head, perfection. But the thing is, we are setting them up for failure, because life is not perfect.
Exactly.
And then when they do go to real life, finally get out the house and go out to the real world, and they fail, and they will fail miserably, it impacts them exponentially.
Shame. It's all about shame.
Yeah,
right?
they can't handle it. And I always talk about that with my friends. They're like, man, I wish, they talk with me. I wish I would have talked to you, and because I just grew up feeling like I should never fail. I should be perfect. And then that's why they a lot of these kids, they can't handle failure and they can't even handle adversity. It's because they've been told their whole life from their parents they have to be perfect. So that way the reputation of their family, is intact. So can you talk about that? I want to ask you your journey with failure, your relationship with it, because I feel like a lot of people on this podcast definitely need to hear that from you.
Absolutely. Before I get into that, let me just say, perfection is a myth. There's no such thing as perfection. Let me just tell you, there is no such thing as perfection. You can catch excellence on the way to perfection as you pursuing perfection, but you will never arrive at perfection. There is always something going wrong. Something will go wrong. I told one of my young coworkers, one that I mentored, and she got a position. She got a position as supervisor. She moved away and said, "It's not just a matter of if you're going to fail. You will fail at some point.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You will fail. It's how you handle that failure is going to make the difference." Yes. And I said, listen, as a leader, to be a strong leader, it is what makes strong leaders differentiate them from those that are not true leaders is that when you make mistakes, you don't try to explain it away. You take responsibility, admit that you're wrong, and you move on. And if you have any dream, to anybody who has a dream out there, it's like me. I'm getting ready to pursue a new, different whole field, no new career in my life. I know I am going to fail many times. I know that. So, but what am I doing with that film? The thing is to learn from what did I do wrong? Okay, change the plan again, then go again. If it fails, if I fail 100 times, change your plan 100 times. Keep going at it until gonna make it. Just think of mistakes as another way of doing things, And like John Maxwell says, if you don't learn from that mistakes, if you keep making the same mistakes over and over, it's a problem. If you learn from it and you move on, then look at it as a part of your journey. Accept the fact that you will fail at some point. That happens. Always. You will make mistakes. We're not perfect. We're human beings. Only God is perfect. Okay. So accept that. Like for me, I remember when I graduated from university, when I graduated, right? So I had a career fair and I had a job lined up with First Hawaiian Bank or somebody. It was a Bank of Hawaii or something like that. Had a job lined up. Then my husband came down an order to go to Afghanistan, got deployed. So he asked me, our son was about, he was about 7 at the time. And so he asked me, he said, can you please just stay home with our son? Because the job was in Honolulu downtown, right? And traffic in Hawaii at the time was already bad anyway. And so, we lived like 15 miles from town, but still, and if you get stuck in traffic, it takes you about an hour and 15 minutes to drive 15 miles, So, and so he asked me to just stay home with us. And I said, okay, I'll give up my opportunity. And so I stay home. I make the, sacrifice to stay home, sacrifice my career and stay home with my son. And so when my husband came back from deployment, I tried to find a job. I could not find a job for the life. Nobody would hire me. Nobody would hire me. You talk about like feeling defeated, So I tried everything. I even went through one of those temp agencies is what temp. I did, Yeah. So I went through a temp agency and I finally got a job. I started off making like a college graduate making $8 an hour. Okay. Yeah. And I'm like, look, I always think about what my father-in-law always says. If you have a job, it's easier to get another job. So I'm like, I'm taking it. I don't care. It's $8 an hour. I'm taking it, but at least to say, that's how I started, but I remember keep saying, getting those emails or those letters that we found somebody that better fit I hated those things, you know, I hated those notices because I'm like, if you just give me the chance, I can prove to you, you know, that I can do this. You know, I even like offered, you know, like, okay, I'll come work for you for a month. You don't have to pay me. Just I'll prove to you that I can do the work. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I am smart. I'm intelligent. I know I can do this work, you know. So that's the thing. I even went willing, you know, to just even like when he said $8 an hour. But like you said, sometimes our younger generation, we want to hit it big right off the bat. You know, I have nephews that graduated from college, like no job, deep in debt and no job. And I'm like, you, they're picky about the job because it's not paying them enough. And I'm like,
That's
what?
that's the entitlement. That's the entitlement that we have.
Yeah, entitlement mentality. I'm
Yeah.
like, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, you have to start somewhere. You know, even if you have to start off as a janitor, you know,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that's where you're going to be for the rest of your life, but you got to start somewhere. You know, sitting over there and waiting for the big hit to come across, it's never going to happen. You know, I remember feeling defeated, feeling, but I, not once did I lose my belief that I can do any job that's assigned to me or believe in my ability to perform on a job. And once I'm given a chance, I'm good. I'm good to go, you know. And so I'm just encourage all of you young kids, even if you have to start off a job that doesn't pay you much, don't look at it that way. Start right away because you can always get a job when you have a job. It's easier to get another job when you have a job. You know, it's just get the experience. That's what I tell my son, you know, in the Navy. I said, get every experience, learn everything you can, take advantage of every class you can take, you know, and then if you decide to get out in a couple of years and go back to college, you know, then you'll be ready. You know, you take that experience with you. If you want to continue, you know, you can move on to different things. But you know, I want to give him the chance, the opportunity to like to choose for his own life. But it's like I tell him, you got, you know, even when you are at positions or you work with people, you just look at them like, God, I can't stand them. Learn from them. Even the ones that you don't like, learn everything you can from them and realize there will always be somebody better than you are at whatever it is that you do. You know, that's a good thing because that means we can look up, we can ask them, what did you do to be successful at what you do right now? You know,
Yeah.
if you're always at the first of your class, like John says, if you're always at the first of your class, that's a problem. You're not learning, you stop growing, you know. So anyway, but that's my take on failure.
No, I'm glad you shared that. And just for just for everybody that's watching, I wanted to give you guys some insight because there's something I see of a lot of my friends, or even my younger family members, is when they graduate after college, and they struggle getting a job, and then they have this entitlement that they only should get this one specific job, and then they don't want to take any other job. And if you listen, I want you guys to listen to understand this. When it comes to the real world, I'm telling you, unless you graduate from an Ivy League school, most companies nowadays in this era, a generation of market, they really don't care about the degree. I've heard this from a lot of successful entrepreneurs and business owners. Like they care more about the experience because a degree doesn't tell them that you can do the job.
Yes.
Because you don't have real life application or skills. You know, all
it is.
Right, because go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
It is true what you say because I do hire like people, you know, I do hire people on my team and we do that, you know, we go through interviews and we look at the kids that have the experience, you know, and we look at kids who intern, you know, that intern while they were in college because at least they were exposed to some kind of working environment, some kind of experience, you know, for us, because really training a kid that right out of college, unless those kids were like intern with us through the summer or what we call a long-term interns, we look at at those that have experience over those that coming right out of college, you know. So
I'm glad you shared that, because I just want to give everybody real life. This is real. This is what happens in the real world. So and that's why if you get an offer, take it. You know, of course, go for the best offer you can get. You know, there's nothing wrong with pursuing, but whatever position gives you. But don't think that you know. I'm telling you, like, if you think that you're coming out of your class to college and you think you're all that, and I'm telling you, when it comes to business, like, all they care about is results. And when they make decisions of hiring, all they care about who is the best candidate that could get the results that we want as fast as we can. And that's how business.
Sometimes in the real world, like in the corporate world, right, we don't have time to
train and develop.
To train. We see the potential in a kid right out from college, and we know we would have to develop him, you know, but they would have to learn everything, you know. Whereas hiring somebody with experience already, you know, at least they know, you know, how to work the system, some of the systems that we already have in place and stuff. But, you know, it doesn't mean, so that's why my advice to kids coming out of college, if somebody offer you a job, it may not be what you want, but take it. It will not be where you're going to be for the rest of your life just because you take a job, you know. You can always move off.
Especially if they offer you a job, even like you said, even if you get there's something I always tell a lot of my friends, like if you go to offer a job in a company and you don't get the job you want in that same company, but you really want to be in that company, take the next job in the bottom, you know, because at least you're still where you want, and you're still working for the company that you want to be.
Want to be in,
and you can gain the experience and move up and get that job that you originally wanted.
And sometimes your perspective about a company, you know, in college, and you get in and you're like, this is not where I wanted to be or what I thought it would be. I don't want to be in this company. And you realize that this is not for me. So, you know, go find somebody else, some other job and somewhere else, you know, another opportunity. So don't set limiting beliefs over yourself with, you know, you think you got to have a certain job at a certain company, and, you know, don't cut yourself short.
And also, you know, don't be entitled, you know, humble yourself. Humble yourself, you know, because like I said, you think you're the best. I'm telling you, there's a lot of kids just like you, or even better. So you think you're the best. I'm telling you, this is the real world is very competitive. That's why you guys I love what you do. That's why personal growth is so important, because you're competing, you know, at the highest level, depending on how far you go. So if you want to be the best, you better be the best.
You better be the best, and you better see yourself as the best.
Exactly. What's my favorite quotes? People have like $1 million dreams, but minimum wage work ethic.
It's hard work, you know, to be successful. As any successful person who's just in like the journey was easy. None of them will say that, you know, it takes a lot to get there where they are now.
All right, so I do have one of those random topics. You know, we talk about random. I have a random topic.
Okay.
I have a random topic. I'm interested to hear your point of view, because you did mention about shame. You know, what is for a lot of kids, they're afraid of failure because of the shame. And I know it's interesting. One of my podcasts I did a long time ago with Lanu Palitao, I asked her the question, what's the hardest thing of being a Tongan woman? And then her answer was, the hardest thing of being a Tongan woman is being a Tongan woman, because we are shamed for everything we do, no matter how big, how small. You know, if you go, it doesn't matter what you do as a woman, like people will still find something wrong with you and just shame you. And then it's just that's the hardest thing of being in a Tongan woman, just being a Tongan woman. And I want to ask you, you know, your experience, you know, have you ever got shamed by the Tongan community? Have you got shamed by your family? Or have you ever seen somebody that I see this a lot also on online social media, where I'll see somebody get publicly shamed on social media, and I don't know if you saw one of my videos. Like there was a video I made, but this girl, like I told you before, there was a girl that spoke up, and everybody was shaming her, and I had to make a response video. I made a response video for everybody that was shaming her, and to explain the situation, so they can stop judging her. And a lot of people, I remember when I made that video, a lot of Polynesians hit me up and send me messages. Hey, I'm so happy that you stood up and you and not allow her to keep getting bullied and shamed by and they're very appreciative that I stood up for her. And for me, it's just like it's also so sad. Our community as as loving and as church going, our people are. We go to church every Sunday, but then
you know what? Going to church doesn't mean anything at all.
Exactly,
it doesn't mean anything. But church is not in a building. Church is right here, within you. Right.
And that's the irony, right? But yeah, I'm interested to hear your topic on it. Growing up as a Tongan woman, did you ever go through that experience, or from being ashamed or whatever, or do you ever see that within your own circle of friends or people just getting shamed because they made a mistake? Because one thing you talked about before perfectly about life, right? About making mistakes, and it's so sad to see. If I see this a lot of not only my friends. I have girlfriends. They happen to get pregnant early, before marriage or in high school, and then everybody just tells them it's over, your life is over. I have a friend right now that she got pregnant at 18, and she told me everybody just told her, nobody wants to date you, no man's gonna marry you, your life is over. Just getting shamed. I was like, oh my God, I felt for her, and I had to tell her, hey, don't worry about that. And these are coming from her own family and from her closest friends, and within their own community. So I'm just interested to hear your perspective on the whole shame thing. So that way people are listening who doing those things right now can listen to that and understand, have some type of empathy for the people who are on the receiving end of the criticism and the judgment that often comes from our culture, especially when it comes to women, or making mistakes.
Yeah, you know what? For me, maybe because I was never, like I said, I was just never interested in anybody's opinion growing up, really.
Yeah.
And my sister will tell you, like even like my husband is my only boyfriend, really, the only boyfriend I had, right? And he said, I'm glad I got you, and married you, because really I was so unorthodox. My parents were in Hawaii. They're like, you want to come get married? I'm like, no. His family was like, y'all want to come to Louisiana and have a Southern wedding? No. The way we did it, he looked at me one day, he's like, you want to get married? I'm like, yeah. And so we were in our uniforms, right? Doing training afternoon. We told our boss, we're going to get married. So we went to the judge, waited there, paid $10, get married. We're going to be married 31 years next month, right?
Oh, congrats.
And I tell, and you know what? And I just broke the tradition because I seen my sister had a big wedding, my cousins had a big wedding. Some of them lasted, some of them very unhappy in their weddings, in their marriages. And I'm like, and we went through that big celebration for what? And shout out to the young lady that asked the question, dared to ask the question, proud of her. And shame on those that criticize her, because for saying that, are you looking at your lives? My challenge to you is where is your life now? Are you more successful than you were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, today? Is your life better today that gives you the right to shame her? It's like the verse in the Bible. I can't quote the Bible, I'm not a preacher, but there is, I believe, a verse in there where the lady was, there's like, God, I think was talking about throwing the stones at a glass house.
Yeah.
We can't do that, just because a kid challenge the status quo, we're going to shame them, and even your friend, the 18-year-old that's pregnant, trust me, young lady, life is not over. You still have your whole life ahead of you. Raise that child with love, raise that child in the image of God, and forget anything anybody else says to you that's negative. Focus. Read the Vulnerability book by Brene Brown, or Dare to Lead, or Daring Greatly. Read that book. The Difference Maker. It talks about, John Maxwell talks about some people think attitude is everything. It's not. Attitude is a choice. You get to choose. That's what differentiates us from animals, is that we have a brain and we have the capability to make choices. And talking about shame, look, every single family have their own struggles. I know this without a doubt. Everybody has something. All our families have dysfunctionals in them. We have like some kind of thing with sexual abuse or incest or whatever you call it. Everybody have, or drug addicts or alcoholics, or people, kids are in jail. Every single one of us, there's someone in our family or close to us that's going through this struggle. We need to stop, as people who profess to have love and compassion for others. We need to stop shaming each other, support, every time somebody tried to rise up, we try to pull them down. Anytime somebody's tried to do something outside of the norm or try to be successful, we try to pull them down. Shame on those who do that, who think to hold the tradition here. Just because these young people wanting a new life or better life for them and their children and their grandchildren doesn't mean that they give up our culture as Tongan people. I speak to the older generation, to the ones in my age, you need to break yourselves of that mentality. If where you are in life today is not any better, that you look at your children, I hope to God that you hope the best for your children and give them the opportunity to go and explore and try to live their own lives like God created them to be. That's what I say about shame. Shaming each other, I thank God I have a very strong mind. And I get that from, I was influenced by my father very young, like he says, stand up for what you believe in. Some of my dads, I have to admit, my father had some, behaviors that are shameful, to people, like, having mistresses on the side and girlfriends on the side, how my mom do that, my mom forgiving him, I don't know. I told my mom, I let my husband come and do that to me, he's gonna be out the door. I told my mom at a young age, I ain't playing that stuff. I said, I know, I'm like, because I said, Mom, I appreciate you. I love you. I don't know how you did it with Dad. You put up with him. But I tell you, Mom, the first time my husband does it to me, he is gone. And thank God that I have a husband who loves me unconditionally, takes care of me, make sure I have a roof over my head, make sure my car is gassed up, make sure, he takes care of me better, like wash my clothes, clean my house, cook my food. And I'm very blessed. But like I said,
shout out to your husband, by the way. Shout out to your husband.
That's what he said. You know what he said? He said, when I die, I'm gonna tell your sister I want a Tongan funeral because of all, how we always talk about giving money to all the kabengas and things. Every time somebody, that's like, my phone only rings so like when my sister needs money. So like, oh, somebody died over here. Can you give me, it's like, oh Lord. So I said, now that my sister's gonna call, but I don't have a job, sis. I don't want to get anymore. I can't donate anymore. I don't have a job, but no. My husband will do anything in the world for me and our son, and talk about shame. People don't want to talk about that. Like my son, struggles. There were dark times that we went through with my son. He hooked up some wrong friends, and he had a baseball scholarship. He lost that, and hooked up wrong friends, and he, but the choices are his, doing drugs and getting drunk, and And so that was one of the reasons why I sent him to the island. I said, go to Tonga and visit, go visit your uncle for a couple months. So I sent him on a trip he went to Tonga for a month and then 2 months in Fiji with my brothers. And I said, go find yourself. He came back, because he was just lost. This is a talented kid, intelligent. The potential for him is unlimited, to succeed is unlimited. But I had to send him on that. Thank God that was that was a thought from God, for real. For my husband to wake up one day and say, hey, why don't we send him to the island? So we sent him, he came back, he wanted to join the Navy. Now he's in the Navy, what he does with it, whether he's going to get out or not, but he's way better off there than he were if he's here. And those are things, and some of my families, like I shared that one time in one of my personal growth classes, and one of my just a couple of my nieces and maybe you shouldn't share that, because the shame, I know where it comes from. It was because they look at me as like a perfect. I'm not perfect. My life is not perfect.
Yes.
I have the same struggles as you. Every single one of us have the same struggles. Whether it's struggle financially, struggle with health, or struggle with, different things. Thank God my life is better. Really, I'm grateful for where I am in life. But there's still more. Now it's time for me. I feel like time for me to give back to our youth, to our, like I said, hopefully change the mentality, the culture of our youth and the generations to come, that yes, it's okay to be more and want more and be you. It's okay for you to think that way. You don't have to live a poverty lifestyle in this country because the opportunities are there for you to go after it, So that's my take on shame. That's my take on shame. That's something I'm passionate about. I don't like people because like I said, nobody's perfect. And I do not like when people degrade, say, derogatory remarks, or you're saying degrading remarks to others just because they challenge the status quo. It is good to challenge the status quo. That's why we are where we are, because nobody ever challenged the status quo, and question our way of life. Is it still, should we still continue to be living the way we are? No. And it's like, if you're behind doors, I promise you, when we show up ourselves to the people, all these humble folks and stuff look like, but when we are behind doors, there's no humility there.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the difference, because God sees. They forget God sees and watches over, he sees he knows everything that goes on within you and within your household. He knows it.
I know that's something I always tell a lot of people, because I'm a very open person. I talk about everything about my life, and a lot of sometimes people are like, aren't you afraid of what people might say if you share that moment about your life? And I tell them, I'm not afraid because my struggles and the things I went through in my life, it is part of my life. It is part of who I am, but I don't let that define me as a man, as a person. And I feel like a lot of the people that are afraid about their, whatever they went through in their life. And the thing is, if you hold that with fear, it's always going to control you, and you're always going to be defined by that one traumatic experience. And I feel like it's very healthy. It's okay to be open with it, but I know everybody's different when it comes to their healing process. But I always encourage people, don't be afraid. If something happened to you, as traumatic as it is, don't be afraid to talk about it, and don't let that define, or don't let that be something that you're afraid of. Because at the end of the day, no matter how terrible something happened in our life, it is still part of our life, of your story.
It is. It's still part of your story, and it's okay. Find somebody. If nobody in your family wants to listen, or they want to shush you or shut you up, find somebody that will listen and understand, you know, find somebody that will have compassion and understand where you are, you know, what happened and where you are and how they can help you move forward with your life. You know, that's something that you need to always find. And really, the only peacemaker, the only person who gives us peace is God, really. You know,
exactly. And that's why I tell people, like, you know, for me, it's like, because and I always tell people, whenever you see somebody criticize you or hate you or, you know, shame you, it always comes from a bad place. It's because, you know, it always comes from something. There's something they're hurting them. See that, you know, that term, hurt people. So whenever I hear people that out of criticize or shame me, I know they're hurting themselves. So I just want to show them compassion. And like you said, it's not my job to judge them. That's God's job. All I can do is wish for you and pray for you, because I don't know your life, and I know you're going through something, and I'll just let you be. But he has no impact towards what I'm trying to do for my life. But I realized for myself back a long time ago, you know, all that insecurity I had is because I was just hiding all the things about myself I was afraid to let people know about. And the moment I was open with it with people, open with all my flaws and my insecurities, then I'm not afraid of any criticism. You know, people like talk about something about that's fine. I mean, I'm not afraid. I talk about that all the time. I've made peace with myself. I made peace with my so you can't hurt your negative criticism. You can't hurt me because I already made peace with it. I'll openly talk about it. Yes, that did happen to me. Yes. I'm glad. I'm not gonna deny it. I'm not gonna deny it.
Yeah, I moved on.
I already moved on. Yes.
You know, and that's the funny thing about life, because even the things that we go through that we don't even see as an obstacle anymore, and we moved on. Some other people, they are hung up on that. They're stuck on that. You know, and they don't understand, how can you move forward with your life? And this happened to you. How can you do that? You know, it takes courage. It takes tenacity. It takes positivity. It takes, you know, a strong mindset to change that. So those are the things, you know, and it takes God, you know, knowing that, like I said, with me, no matter what happens in my life, you know, to be honest, I don't know where my life is going in the future. I don't know what's out there, what God has planned for me in the future. I just know that this passion, this tug in my heart to help our people, to add value, to change the culture, change the perspective, so kids can live up to their full potential and change the trajectory of their lives. It is what God called me to do. You know, He made me a people builder. That's what I am. Part of my strength is command. You know, I am a mover and a shaker. You know, I am a born leader. You know, there are people who are born, but leadership is anything. Like John said, you don't have to be a born leader. You can learn to be a leader, you know. And these are things I have learned, you know, and I have to listen to God. It took me a long time, you know, to learn humility, to learn to it's okay to give up my career in order to step into this thing, to the unknown, which is, I'm not very clear on that right now. But I know it's going to be there. You know, I know God will guide my every step. So I'm not worried.
Right.
I'm excited.
Thank you. I do want to ask you, I want to talk about relationships and dating. You know, I have a lot of young people that watch this, so they're really interested to hear that from you, to hear your perspective, your opinion. So one thing I see a lot, because, you know, we mentioned earlier in the beginning of the podcast, you know, women, you know, you guys are Polynesians, you know, what's the expectation for you? Go to high school, get out of high school, get married, and that's it, right? One thing I do see, because there's you know, it's funny, in America, it's a 50% divorce rate in America, and I see a lot of Polynesians get divorced, and based on my own friends that got divorced, a lot of them ask, well, for both perspectives, a lot of them they get divorced because they said, like, you know, when they get married, but they never had the time to get to know each other. I guess that's the thing. So they just go into the honeymoon phase. You know, they saw each other, met each other, they got married.
When that's over, it's like, okay, reality sets in, right?
Reality sets in, and then they realize their goals and their dreams, their values is not aligned. And
Right.
And I see then later on they get divorced, or like they'll be together, and eventually 15 years later, then they finally get divorced. But that's something I want to talk about, because I feel like it is important for people to because I feel like you should marry when you're ready.
Yeah.
I feel like don't marry because that's the culture, that's the expectation, that's every pressure.
Yeah.
I feel like when you're ready, and whatever it's 25, 30, 35, 40, when you're ready, you should then you should make that decision, and that decision should only come from you, not from your parents. They're not gonna live with that person.
No.
Your family is not gonna live with that person. You have to deal with that person every single day. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it, your experience, and also just what you see within your niece, the dating culture with your younger generation, with your family, because I'm sure they talk about these things and the adult things you hear. So I'm just interested to hear your perspective on all that.
Yeah, for some of like my nieces and nephews, I think a lot of them their parents didn't force them. They were fortunate. Whoever they married, who they chose.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing, with me. And it's like I remember, but for me, it's like for me personally, it wasn't that I, kind of like looked down on the Tongan guys. I just knew I did not want that culture. To be honest, I wasn't ready to be married, but I met my husband. I like him. He's a fun guy. When I met him, like I said, he was my only boyfriend. I met him and we dated. I think we went on our first date like on October. He was getting out of the army, but he came back October, and then we got married in March the following year.
Yeah.
We've been married since, but I believe sometimes the circumstances might have an impact, because this is what I see when I was growing up and watching, some of my cousins and stuff, is that when they run into problems with their spouses or husbands or wives, they run back to mom and dad and ask for their opinions.
Yeah.
Right. I think that is one of the biggest no-nos they need to realize. Do not get your parents involved, because these parents and I've seen this with one of my brothers, the parents, the wife's parents tell her something, my brothers, they come and talk to my parents and they say stuff, and it just escalate the problem, right? It could have been whatever started the problem, but I think I was fortunate, because when we got married, we got sent off to Germany right away, and people told us, either she said, you just get married. When you go to Germany, it's either going to break you or you come back and your marriage is stronger. Thankfully, our marriage was stronger, because the thing that helped with that, moving away and taking the time to work out our problems, is the realization, okay, you need to grow up. Put on your big girl panties or big boy, underwear, and just like, let's work out our problems. Let's work. It's a compromise. When the honeymoon phase is over, it's a compromise. I think the marriages that last long are those that are their friendship. Like my husband is my best friend. When you have trust, unconditional trust in the relationship, and you have God in the relationship, I firmly believe those things have to be present. When you feel you have stability, you have compassion, you have trust, and you have hope in your relationship, those things, and you have, above of all, God in the relationship, it helps you to continue to build on that relationship over, right? Sometimes when we fight, I always apply the 10-second rule. Hold your breath for 10 seconds and then count to 10, before you say something, because it's true what it says in the Bible, right? Our tongue can be a sword. It can be lethal, because we could say something hurtful to each other. That's also can be emotional abuse, you know?
Yeah. And also, once you say something, you can't take it back.
You can't take it back. You can't. You said it, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, also compromise, you know, learning to forgive, you know, and say sorry, be the first to say sorry. I tell you what helped my husband and I, and it has made our marriage even stronger in the last 6 years, is because when like I said, when I took the Clifton Strengths training, right? And I told you the dark times we were going through with our son, that my husband and you know, my husband and our son didn't even speak, you know. They went through that. We were paying for his rent wherever he lived with his roommate, but they weren't they weren't speaking. So what I did after I learned about the Clifton Strengths, talking about each person, what's innate to us, our strengths, right? Our talents, God-given gifts. So I had both of them take their strengths test. And it gave me a big aha moment, realizations like our son is total opposite from us. That's why him and his dad clash every single time they come together. So I had to explain to my husband, this is how our son's strength shows up. This is who you are over here. And this is me over here. Because my husband and I, you always hear about opposites attract, opposites marry, right? But my husband and I are very alike.
Okay.
So it took me learning about who he is in his strengths to like night when our arguments, instead of us just screaming and hollering at each other, you know, he just get mad and goes off. I just sit there and listen, you know, and maybe may not even say anything today at all. And then I wait till the next day because I understand he has focus, he has self-assurance, which means focus, you know, they're like very tunnel vision when they make up their mind. I am right, you know, nothing I will say will make a difference. So I'm better off just holding my breath and saving my energy to go do something else. You know, wait till he's calmed down, then I make my point. Because I have command and I have self-assurance also. Self-assurance people with that strength think what they say and what they do is always right, right? And so when it comes to that, both of us had that. And I said, if I say whatever, he's not going to listen. He's not going to listen to me. I'm not going to listen to him. So it's best just to wait till he's calmed down. Then I lay out, you know, strategically point out the whys for point 1A, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and whatever, you know. It helped, it changed the dynamic of his relationship with his son, because now, you know, he knows. I said, look, our son has intellection. He has harmony. People with harmony don't like conflict. He has intellection. And I said, the way those people work, you're going to have to give him a couple of days. You know, my husband is a doer, right? He likes to do things and he lays it out and get it done. Our son, give him something, you need to give him a couple of days to think about it. And then you come back and say, okay, what did you think about that? And I said, and the way you approach our son is that you ask him questions. He said, you know, make suggestions. Don't say, you need to do this. I said, when you say those words, need to do this, and you know, laying down the law for him, he's already shut. He's already closed his ears. He's not even listening to you.
Yeah.
He's done. He's done listening to you. You know, it just goes through one ear out the other. And so I tell my husband, I said, if you want him to do things and see him take action, you have to make suggestions and you have to put it in form of questions and to give him a day or two to think about it. And then you know, go back and follow up with him, because he's not an executor. He's not going to do it right away. Follow up with him and say, hey, what did you think? Did you think about what I said the other day? And usually he does, you know. So helping them to see eye to eye how different his dad is from him and how different he is from his dad, it create that bond. And it come to the point now, it took a long time, but you know, they're at the point now where they have a wonderful relationship, you know, a great relationship. So for me, that's why I am so gung-ho on Clifton Strengths, because raising your kids, you can see the talents in your kids, right? and you develop them at a young age. Like one of my nieces, he had his 13-year-old took the test, and communication is high for him. So I tell her, encourage him to speak at things. He may go through anxiety, but always put it into, whatever his other strengths, help him to dial those up, because that will build confidence in him. That will, you're molding that child to live up to his full potential as he gets to a certain age. He can go after his dream. So that's what I talk about relationship. Like for my husband and I, like I said, our lives now, my husband says it almost every day. He said he's more content in his life now than he ever has. He's like, I'm happy. I just can't tell you, I enjoy life. I love waking up. He still he still has a military mindset. He gets up at 4, go to the gym, work out. This old man can, do hundreds of push-ups and pull-ups, and he still have that mindset. But he's my best friend. We do enjoy being around each other, and I firmly believe that's part of that. And God transforming his life. Because my husband used to drink like every weekend, and God has, just kind of like, that's why I firmly believe when we pray, we expect a result to happen like in the next hour or tomorrow, right? We have to understand, we gotta wait on God whenever his timing is right. There's no holding back. So
and just to piggyback what you just said, I remember when it comes to praying, I forgot who told me this, but whenever you pray to God for something, he's not going to give you exactly what you asked for. He's going to give you the opportunity for what you asked for. So if you if you pray for patience, he's not going to make you patient. He's going to give you opportunity to test your patience. So that way you get
test your patience.
To develop your patience.
That's exactly right, because I can speak from experience. That's the deal with, I was praying and asking him to change my son. And I'm like, finally one day, it's like, I sit there and I prayed and I reading my Bible, and I was like, aha moment, like, God is not I'm saying the wrong prayer. God is testing how strong is my faith. How strong is your faith? I'm like, how strong is your faith, Heta? You're praying and you're asking, you told God, I'm leaving you, please deliver him. I'm placing him in your hands, deliver him to victory. And you're still praying and asking him, to change him, So I'm like, it's like one of my nieces said to me, Auntie, you need to change your prayer. You need to change your prayer from God giving you courage to walk away from your career. You need to pray and say, God, let me miss the mark. Let me hear your calling, and don't let me miss the mark, of your calling. I said, as soon as that happens, everything fall into place. So everything is like all aligned. I'm so excited. So
thank you. I guess the very last question I want to ask you, and because you always talk about everything happens for a reason.
Yep.
So, and that's something, that's a lesson I always like to tell everybody that's listening. Life doesn't happen against you; it happens for you. So everything happens for a reason, and you may not be aware of what that reasoning is. That's just life. Sometimes we may not have all the answers, but that's where faith comes in. We just gotta keep, and the answers come as we progress in our journey. God, the answers reveal itself as we move on. But I want to ask you, can you talk about a moment in your life, in your journey, that happened, and in that moment you thought it was terrible, and you didn't know the reason why that happened, but now you look back at your life like, oh my God, that was really, and you're so happy now that it happened, because you wouldn't be who you are today.
Yeah, it's like I told you earlier, when McDonald's of all places, right?
Yeah.
McDonald's did send me the little letter and said, I'm not a good fit to work at McDonald's. I remember feeling defeated. I'm like, good fit to what? To flip burgers? I was just like, my gosh, but at that moment, it gave me the courage, like to join the military. And I remember when I joined, I told you, right? When I joined, I knew absolutely nothing about it. First generation military in my family, right? So I cried every single night for the first 2 weeks, wondering, what have I done? What have I gotten myself into, right? But as I'm in there at the time when I was in the military, I've always, I didn't appreciate the time, that I was in while I was in the military. I did not appreciate it. And by the way, I ended up being the soldier of the cycle when I went through that boot camp, right? But looking back at it after I got out, I am so grateful for that experience. I am grateful for that move, because it has gave me so much benefit. I firmly believe God prepared me in every step of my life, in every pivotal moment in my life, or every turning point in my life. God has always prepared me for bigger things, for the next big thing. Losing my parents, getting out of the service, going back to college, going through that depression during my time. It's just like I said, I even got to a point and a moment in my life where I'm thinking, I don't want to live anymore, because like I said, I lost my parents both, one in January and one in May. And so when I went through college and I look back at that, that was a pivotal moment in my life that during my struggle at that time, I really didn't understand, but I see, it took me going through that depression for my husband to call his parents and my father-in-law to came and, came and asked the question and put me through school. I went through that. But the funny thing is about that, when I got enrolled in college, so I enrolled myself in some self-study GED and got my GED anyway, because I get tired of people asking me, did you graduate from high school? So I'm like, okay, here's my GED, so I did that after, many years in the Army after I got out. But, everything that happened in my life, I firmly believe the struggle to find a job after college, after my husband come back from deployment, that experience, learning about that work experience and working with them, kind of exposed me, prepare me. So when we moved over here, to Louisiana and getting that job, I went through a temp agency and I got that job, I got hired on permanently. Leaving that job and I went to CenturyLink. I think my career at CenturyLink, that was the worst experience I had. People were so cliquish in that I work with, very cliquish, kind of like I met this one young lady, the first thing out of her mouth is like, I'm from a small town and I like it. And I'm like, yeah. And I've lived all over the world and I like living all over the world, and I'm just like, and I'm kind of like, and usually I'm a person who does not brag because I could care less what, I don't care what other people do. But that, when she said that, I'm like, that don't sound like me, and so at the time when I was there, I was so miserable getting up and going to work, but all the experience I got from that time for the 18 months, I took it back to graphic packaging, for that experience. And when I went back to graphic, my director at the time, she's the one who, engaged like a John Maxwell leadership coach for our department. And we had that training and the Clifton Strengths training. And we did all of that because that was like the biggest, I'm like, God, this is what my Tongan people need. This is what we need right here. Personal growth. I said, I did not realize that that's where the discontent in my life, is because of this, because this is what I was born to do right here, not, over here in the corporate world. And all the investment that she made in me and stuff, looking back, I'm so grateful for those. experiences, and now I'm prepared. I'm ready, to step away from that and to move on to, answer my calling from God. So yeah, those, anything, I firmly believe that everything is connected. Anything, even in the toughest time, like I just spoke about my son, even in the toughest time, I didn't see it because I was so focused on the problem, not what God had for me. God was testing my faith, really, is what he was doing. He was testing my faith. But I didn't see it at the time because I'm focusing on the problem too much, So I had to redirect my energy. And in order for me to have peace, and you have that inner peace and joy, when you're fully aligned with God, you are the only one who knows it, that you have such a joy that no money can give you, no material things can give you. It's a joy unlike anything else, It's like you're just walking around and you're coming into a room and you're like, hey, how is everybody? And it's like, and people look at you like, hey, what are these smoking today?
Yeah.
It's like, why are you so happy? Why are you smoking?
Yeah.
It is that inner peace you have, knowing whose child are you. So, yeah, for me, I firmly believe everything is connected.
That's funny. I had a couple people. I had a couple people in my life tell me that. They thought I was on drugs. I was like, why are you always laughing all the time? So I'm beat, so energetic. I was like, no, it's like, no, it's no drugs. It's just my perspective in life and my beliefs and my faith in myself. So that's all that is.
Even sometimes when you are seeing negative things and how people think and their perspective, it kind of makes you laugh, and sometimes it makes you sad, but you're like, the small things that used to bother you doesn't bother you anymore.
Yeah.
And you'll come, as you go through your personal growth journey, you'll come to a point where it's not that it doesn't, you still see the opinion, but you're just like, they don't have an impact on you as much as it used to when you were raw, if that makes sense. So that's why I am passionate about personal growth, and I'm, can't wait to add value to our people, and I love what you do. So I love what you do. I think it's pretty awesome that you do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to hear your journey. And you talked about all the decisions you made. Going to McDonald's, not working out, and made you go to the military. That could. But I mean, at that time, that probably seemed like a random decision. But then you look at it now. If that didn't happen, you would have met your husband.
Yeah.
And so
absolutely.
So everything is connected. I think I heard Steve Jobs said it. We can't connect the dots of our life looking back. We can only connect it as we move forward in life. So it's all the things that happened, right, all led to where you are doing right now, led to you finding a husband. So everybody that's listening right now, like, everything that happened in your life, just keep moving forward, just keep getting better. And then you realize that when you get at the destination, you look back, that's why that had to happen. So thank you for sharing that, by the way.
You're welcome. And one of the things, I only look back in the past. I don't really look back in the past. I don't live in the past, but because I firmly believe I have the same perspective as John Maxwell. It's like yesterday ended last night, it's like somebody asked me, it's like, I didn't know your son was such an awesome baseball player. I'm like, I said, because she's like, why didn't you tell me your son was such a superstar in baseball? I'm like, because he's moved on. We're moved on.
Yeah.
That ended last night. That ended yesterday. So the only time is I look back is, okay, how did my past brought me here to where I am, and how can it help me get to the future? But I don't dwell in what happens in the past. I leave behind.
Yeah. I love what you just said. That's one thing. Me too. Like, the only time I look back in the past to see how far I've come.
Yeah.
Because to see how far you come, especially when I do have my moments when I get discouraged and doubt. But then I always look back how far I've come from Tonga, all the way from Tonga to America, and what I've gone through. Then whenever I see how far I've come, it always inspires. You know what? Yep, I can do this. I made it this far.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. Let's keep
You
going.
should keep going, keep
Yeah.
forging ahead,
Yeah,
keep forging ahead one step at a time.
Yeah.
Even the naysayers, you just keep, it's like John says, he talk about the Power of Five. It's a little book that he wrote for network marketers, right? But the principles you can apply to your life. He talk about a man that, had an axe and he was chopping a huge tree down, and so every single day he go to the tree and he pick up the axe and chop at the tree 5 times. He did that every single day until the tree falls over. And he talks about you mentioned staying with the process of what you're doing, achieving your dreams. It's not easy. Even when you fail, you get right back up and you keep going, because eventually you are going to overcome and achieve your dream, whatever it is,
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think we've come to the end. I just want to say thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for sharing your life story. Man, it was we had some fun. We had some fun today.
I know. We have talked for almost. So what time did we start?
I don't know. I don't know. But it was great. It was fun.
Yeah,
so
good.
I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your life story and having the courage to do so. And that's why I always tell a lot of people, anybody that shares their life story, I have much respect for them. And people don't realize how much courage it takes to do that. So the fact that you did that today, not only for yourself, but for the people that's listening to add value to them, that's a testament to you. So I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your life story, everybody. The one thing I always ask every guest at the end of the show, the last thing we always do is I just want to ask you if you just leave some final words, final thoughts, some words of wisdom, and then we can end off the podcast with that. And then that'll be the end of the podcast. So you just share some final words.
That for those that struggle through life and trying to find who you are, remember you were created in the image of God, right? You remember whose child are you. When you're struggling through trying to find who you are, don't ever try to compare yourself to other people in their journey. Focus on you. Make sure that you see the value in yourself, that you have something to offer. God gave you are all fully resourced. And to the younger generation, break the chain of the culture. Don't put your self-limiting belief on your children. Raise them up to be independent, strong-minded young kids. Let them go out there and achieve their dreams. Support your kids. Don't look at them as your helpers. God gave them to you as your gift. God's gift to us is our talents. Our gift to God is to develop it. You need to do the same for your children. You will always be Tongan. We will always be Tongan no matter what. But that doesn't mean that we cannot change the way we live our lives. We can do anything everybody out there that can do, other people can do. We can do it as well. We are fully resourced. We have the talents, the intelligence to do it. Find friends, surround yourself with friends who support you, who give you positive feedback, who encourages you, who truly shares your sorrows and your happiness and joy. Focus on positive energy. Redirect yourself. When negativity comes, it's like young kids says, talk to the hand. Negativity don't have a part of your life. God didn't want you to struggle in this life. He wants you to thrive, live an abundant life, and nothing wrong with wanting more and being more. Go after your dreams. I love you all. I hope God bless each and every one of you this evening.
All right. Thank you so much. Right. Pito. Have you guys have a great day. I'm gonna press the stop button. I'm gonna talk to you right after. Okay. Give me 1 second. Give me one second.